know, I'm really starting to like this go-karting thing.
Yeah, me too. Oh my gosh, can I show you this cute dress I just got?
Yes, of course. Oh my goodness, it's so cute.
I just love shopping.
I love shopping too.
Oh my gosh.
Wait, did you guys say you like shopping?
Of
Yeah.
course.
Well, dude, I have the perfect place to do that at. ShopPayCara.com. At ShopPayCara.com, you can get free shipping on orders $200 or more. You can get anything you want, like MXC rims, gloves, rib vests, shoes, anything that you need, all at ShopPayCara.com.
Who is he talking to?
No idea.
But we're gonna have to check it out. Sounds like a great deal.
Sure does.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to day number 2 of the Superkarts USA Winter Series Championship weekend. We are so happy to have you with us once again here for morning warm-up. Myself, Xander Clemens, alongside me, David Land. Track is hot here with KA Senior opening practice sessions. And right now, the racetrack, David, you and I were looking at it a little bit before we went on to the show. There is still some standing water, but we're back on slick tires. Sun is out, but there are not sand traps, but water traps that we've got around Speedsportz Racing Park right now.
Yeah, we had heavy rains just last night. I mean, if you stuck around with us for the podiums, that didn't happen because of those severe storms that came through here last night. Lots of standing water, but the track's actually dry enough where most of the competitors, if not all of them, are on slicks right now. But as you mentioned, Xander, some of those puddles, the sand traps, if you will, that's going to narrow the racing groove today as the day goes on. And we saw yesterday, for whatever reason, this track seems to, or at least the environment around this track seems to, evaporation isn't really much of a thing. So as the day goes on, I think we're going to have to deal with those puddles for the majority of it. So it'll be interesting to see how that changes the competitors. I know Turn 1 is a place where we've seen some surprise moves in the past. Well, that's not available unless somebody wants to go swimming. So I think there's going to be some really interesting things later on today with those puddles and with the damp conditions.
Yeah, it takes me back a little bit to when we were back here with the Pro Tour for the Winter Nationals last year, because we had some standing water, and it was a tactical move between some of the drivers, especially the more experienced ones, putting someone there, almost using it as a pick, right, of putting them in a compromising spot where if they're going to stay alongside you, they're going to get wet. And there's no one better to talk about the environment of the racetrack right now today, too, than, of course, our very own Caleb Vieska. He's down on pit lane with Cameron Reed. Caleb, good morning to you.
Good morning to you guys. And again, I'm down here on grid and kind of walking around and looking at all the drivers, all the young drivers getting ready to go out for their session. So like you guys mentioned, right, got the slick tires all mounted up. So whatever tires they had for practice could be maybe even the tires yesterday used for the pre-final that they're using here this morning. We've seen some drivers have looked to the other side. Shep Sullivan actually had some rain boots on just now, and they actually just took them off. Sean Owens has them in hand, but yeah, like you guys mentioned, right, there's a lot of different places where there's going to be standing water. Turn 1, like David mentioned, is going to be the place where it's going to stick and stay for quite a long time. And as well, all the runoffs, all the rumble strips, all the curbs are going to be very slick. This paint, as we know, Xander, we talked and we touched on it yesterday as well, where that's going to turn in it almost like ice here with the mixed conditions with the water that's kind of standing on it. But yeah, this is again, everybody's ready to go. Everybody's on slick tires, and everybody's happy to finally see some dry racing here at Speedsportz Racing Park. Back to you guys.
Yeah, it seems like a sight for sore eyes to be here with the sun shining down on us. It's finally what we would have hoped for the Winter Series in 2026, to have warm weather. It's going to get up to kind of the upper 60s, pushing 70 degrees by the mid-afternoon. Should be exactly what you're hoping for if you're a snowbird coming down south. And it's not exactly Orlando, Florida, but it is a beautiful facility here at Speedsportz Racing Park.
I thought Caleb made a great point too about the weather and the water and the accumulation. One of the things that Diego Ramos mentioned to me yesterday is if guys in front of you or even further back in the pack put wheels off, they could pull water and mud onto the racing surface. That's a quirk of this racetrack, which you mentioned to me earlier this morning, kind of keeps the racing close. So I think in some ways, Xander, I think we're going to see a lot closer racing today because the track is going to continue to be so unpredictable, even if the weather won't be.
Yeah, today the question will be, when do some of those hazards around the racetrack begin to widen out enough where you can go side by side in zones that on Friday you would. But heavy rain overnight, a massive storm coming through. It's pushed podiums for both days to tonight. So tonight's pit box will be a little bit shorter because we'll have the Saturday podiums, the Sunday podiums, and then as well honoring the top 3 in the championships from the Winter Series. But Speedsportz Racing Park, as everyone around the pits very well know, and if not, have at least probably seen walking around the grounds for the last 7 weeks. One couple have been working extremely hard to put on this event. Jessica and Alan Rudolph and their entire team here at Speedsportz Racing Park, and they have a really cool story about this weekend. This weekend in particular, yesterday in particular, was their 25th wedding anniversary on Valentine's Day. We, of course, are so thankful for them for spending their 25th wedding anniversary at the racetrack and hosting all of us over 230 drivers and families and more for the Skusa Winter Series. And I got to sit down with Alan a little bit earlier this week and catch up about it.
And we met at Bondra. In fact, she was working there before I was, and she was like, at the time when she first started there, she was just a receptionist working at the front desk and all that. Well, when Bob started the kart school, Bob had her transition to the kart school to help her do all the HR administrative stuff for the kart school, and it was just her and her boss and like 2 other guys that were working on the go-karts and instructing at the time. And then a year goes by, and that's when I met Bob, and all this happened. Well, when Bob had me, unbeknownst to me, when Bob had me come out and visit the facility, it was on a weekend when no one was there because I was flying under the radar at that point. He was trying to find someone to run the kart school for him, and but there was already somebody there, and Jessica's boss. And so a month or 2 later, it's announced in Shifter Kart Illustrated that Bob Bondra has hired Alan Rudolph to come run the kart school. And she reads it in the magazine, and she's like, well, who's this Alan Rudolph? I don't know this guy. I'm running the school here with Bryant, and who's this guy? And so she ran up to the president of the company at the time, and she's like, what's this? And shows an article in the magazine. And it wasn't a picture of me. It was me driving a kart. And, Alan Rudolph coming to run Superkarts school. And nobody had any idea except for Bob and the president of the company, their general manager at the time. And she's like, it'll be fine, you're gonna like him, don't worry about it. And she's like, I don't know, who's this guy gonna come and ruin my life, whatever. So then fast forward to me actually moving there, the day was coming when I was starting, and she went and hid around in the accounting department and waited for me to walk through the front door so she could like see who this guy was to come ruin her life. And I said, I'm Alan Rudolph here to see Bob, and then she turned around the corner and saw my dad. So my dad, you know, he's Santa Claus, got his big beard and everything, and she ran around the corner. She's like, it's an old guy with the gray beard. Like, and she freaking out, like, you know, this old guy's gonna come in there and ruin her life and everything, you know. And obviously that didn't happen, and 25 years later, here we are.
So when do you end up meeting her?
Oh, that same day. I mean, we met that same day, so it was, you know, it was immediately diffused, you know, like once she figured out that it was not an older gentleman coming to ruin her life, and, you know, we obviously hit it off straight away, and the rest is history pretty much.
Here you are. Yeah. You've had so many years in this industry, and of course your son Aiden racing this weekend. I asked you earlier in the week, was there any extra pressure with yesterday being you and your wife's 25th anniversary for him to win? You said no, he's got enough on him.
Yeah, he's got enough on his plate. He struggled pretty hard yesterday. He had a good qualifying, but the race didn't go so well. So today's a new day. We'll see what happens today.
Alan, David obviously doesn't know as much of your story as I have, but I was telling him a little bit before the morning how proud you were of how this racetrack has raced now that we've gotten multiple years back-to-back of hosting majors. So especially today, right, with where a couple parts of the racetrack are going to have some water still probably on them into qualifying and through some of the race sessions, what can we expect here? We're still trying to guess when we think that last little bit on the front stretch might clear out, because it might stay all day.
Yeah. To be honest, we have a racetrack in the middle of a drainage plan everywhere around here. It cost me about $250,000 when I built the place to put the drainage system in, and the one place we messed up was right there at the start-finish line in turn one. Turn one, the topo, basically the water's supposed to flow away. There's no drain there. The water's supposed to flow away, but it's just such a slow slope. It really has to soak into the ground. So to be honest, at the start-finish line, that's going to go away in probably an hour or so, but I bet you turn one's going to stay damp on the inside most of the day.
Oh, that's going to be exciting for us, though. You know, we're entertainers after all. We like a little bit of Mario Kart action. Yeah. You know, I want to ask you about Bob Bondurant, because that's such a legendary name in this sport. I mean, just kind of talk about him a little bit and your background with him.
Yeah, it's funny you say a legendary in the sport. I had this conversation with Caleb Vieska a couple weeks ago. He didn't even know Bob Bondurant. So there's so many people in this world that don't, especially karters this age, you know. Bob was a famous race car driver back in the 60s and 70s, and raced for Carroll Shelby, and they won the World Manufacturers Championship against Ferrari, and then Bob was able to race for Ferrari. And so to be able to go to work at Bondurant, you know, that kind of changed the trajectory, you know, of where I ended up. And had I not gone to work at Bondurant, we wouldn't be sitting here talking right now, really.
That's huge. I mean, well, and I'm a bit of a student of the sport, right? Like my favorite movie is the 1966 Grand Prix movie, which he's a star in, right? So that's so neat to be able to have that opportunity. And of course, the Bondurant School, you know, so many drivers came through that as well. You know, kind of talk about the circuit design, because I know this is, as you mentioned, this is your baby, right? So, you know, what are you most proud of about this circuit?
You know, to be fair, that it all came together the way it did. You know, you look at the shape of the property and you think, I got to put all this in here. And I was the first track facility to have two separate tracks, a rental track and the pro track. And when you try to cram all that into, it's 27 acres, but when you try to cram it all in, all of a sudden you run out of space. And so before I could really think about the design of the track, I had to kind of get the lay of the land and where I'd put the rental track and the buildings and all that. And then what I end up with is this little pie over here, you know. And as far as designing the track, there's basically 5 different types of corners on any track, right? Constant radius, increasing, decreasing, S's, or chicanes, which I hate chicanes, as Xander knows. I don't have any chicanes, so I got S's. And so I just wanted to incorporate those 5 kind of corners in the track, and then make sure that I had good braking zones and passing zones, and from there you just start putting it all together. I mean, people have asked, did you make a certain turn after your favorite turn on a track somewhere? And I was like, no, it wouldn't really work that way. I put a lot of thought into it, and there's really no specific corner that's like my favorite track somewhere. It didn't really work out that way, but it all worked out great in the end. You know, all I wanted it to do was race well, and it does that even better than I thought.
From a business perspective, having a pro track and having a rental track and keeping those two items separate, you mentioned that that was kind of an innovative idea when you did it. Kind of explain the thought process as to why that works so well.
Well, except for when it rains, I can have my rental track open, you know. So the parking when you have an event like this, I never even thought about it. To be fair, I never actually thought about the issue of parking all, you know, there's 500 cars or whatever, you got rental cars around. And so we do run out of space. It works okay when there's no rain and I can park in the grass areas around. But when it rains, I've got to close the rental track, which, you know, is a bummer. But we can host a race like this. We had rental carts going Wednesday and Thursday and Friday out there. And that's what's unique about it, is I can still have my rentals going while we host a race like this.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's one of the pieces that keeps these properties going. Equally as well, from a pro track side, you're not having to deal with the rental carts dragging all kinds of other stuff out onto the circuit or changing the rubber about it. And you know, I'm sure it's been cool for you to see from the racer mindset of what the same tire compound being driven on this racetrack by so many go-karts over such a quick amount of time, you know, does to your asphalt and how much it builds up. And at the same point, I think from what everyone's been saying, granted it was cold and we've had some rain, that it's just kind of slowly built up. I mean, even this weekend, it's almost as if we were just running a regular summer TSRS race here or regional race here. The track's been consistent and just building that base layer. It hasn't gotten weird patches, and more than anything else, right, the asphalt hasn't ripped up at all. For a facility being here for now over a decade, that's a really, really cool stat line to have.
Yeah, we put a lot of effort into, the track has 2 layers of asphalt, and we put a lot of effort into making that final layer something that was more durable than just standard stuff. It's a little more grainy than I wished it was. Tire wear is a little more now than it was when it was brand new. When it was brand new, I mean, you can run for weeks on a set of tires, and now it burns up the tires a little more, especially when the track is green. So this morning you're going to see a little more tire degradation than you would later in the day when the rubber comes down. But the rubber, we keep talking about rubber, the Evenco tires don't really lay down the rubber like other brands do, and so you don't see that really high level of grip and a specific dark line and the rubber being laid down. So I think that's where the consistency comes in, to the track being consistent, is it just gets to a certain level and kind of stays there, you know.
Yeah, no doubt. Now, as we look to the rest of the year, right? This is we're going to be coming back to you with the Texas Sprint Series here in a month. You've obviously got the Speedsportz Racing Club Series that'll be busy. The rest of the year goes on with the rental track like it always does every day, staying as busy as possible. But I'm sure there's a lot of track owners that would love to be in your seat right now for us talking to them, hyping them up, and having the Superkarts USA Winter Series. If there was an Alan Rudolph from the future, to go back to yourself in the past a couple of years ago, to say, listen, you think you know everything of what it takes to put this on or what to worry about, but let's say in 2021 or 2022, if you had 1 or 2 words of advice of, hey, be prepared for this, by the way, to another track owner, because there's probably a lot of lessons that you've learned over these few years.
Man, be prepared for the trash. Like, how do you plan for that? I had no idea. I mean, this weekend we'll go through 8 20-yard dumpsters of trash, plus our regular, you know, like 4 loads of the regular dumpsters of trash. Car parking, like we already talked about, is a pain. And so it's all that little stuff that leads up to the big. Once it happens and Skusa takes over, like come Friday, I'm pretty chill, except for the parking situation. But they take over, and I can kind of sit back and just take it all in at that point. It's leading up to the week that's kind of crazy.
Well, has it been fun at least? Are you looking forward to this afternoon to getting to enjoy one last day of kicking back, watching Superkarts USA officials take over your racetrack and hopefully put on some more good racing? I
am. Yeah, we. You saw the video. Our anniversary was yesterday, and we're leaving next Saturday on our vacation. So it's gonna look like a bomb went off in the pits tomorrow morning. It takes us about 4 days to clean up, and then I'll be out of here.
Congratulations, by the way. That's excellent. I mean, not much in racing lasts 25 years, much less marriages. So that's an excellent thing, and congratulations to you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, congratulations again, Alan, on both that and the success of this facility. I'm sure you and Jessica are super proud to be standing here at the end of this crazy 7-week stint. I know it was a lot to contemplate hosting everybody. Even the Rotax Winter Trophy only came together about, 5 weeks out, that.
Yeah, that was like a total last-minute thing. Tom had kind of given me a hint that it might happen, so I was on my calendar. I was kind of prepared for it, but man, yeah, that was just last minute, and of course, there was the worst weather on the planet we had to deal with. I mean, TSRS last year was bad with the cold and rain, but I think Rotax might have topped that one. But we made it through it. At the end of the day, everyone, loves being here. They love racing the track. Weather sometimes is an issue, but what are you going to do about that, right?
Well, we'll let you enjoy the rest of the day. We appreciate you spending so much time with us, Alan, and so cool to tell your story as well, of course, of you and Jessica's journey, meeting together at the Bondurant Driving School, and that's ultimately what led to us now getting to enjoy hanging out at your property once again here for the Skusa Winter Series in 2026. So we're going to send it down to Caleb Vieska, but Alan, once again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Caleb, on to you.
Thank you, Xander. And again, spoke to one father talking about his kid racing this weekend, and Alan and Aiden. Here with Michael Kotowski. We touched on your guys' story a little bit yesterday as well, right, with Nico and Jack taking part this weekend. Both your boys took a win here, and I saw the emotion out of your face. Tell me what this means to you. First of all, spending the weekend at the track with your boys and seeing them come out on top.
Yeah, I mean, this sport allows parents to bond with the kids, like unlike any other sport, because the highs are the high. Able to get like we did yesterday is just amazing. Like all the hard work that goes into this, it just pays off, and just seeing them progress, it's an amazing feeling.
And I guess moving forward, right? You guys started racing back in Orlando about 2 years ago, I believe, right? And Jack actually wasn't even allowed to take part of the main event because he was just a little bit too slow and off the pace. Now moving 2 years forward, do you ever think you were going to be in this situation?
Oh, it's a tough question to answer, because as a parent, you want your kids to progress, but then you look at the reality of how much this sport is evolving over the time, and how much how good the drivers are around, and American driving, American karting is as good as it's probably ever been. So to go from 2.5 years ago, from Jack not even being allowed to participate in Skusa Newcastle event, which was our first race ever, to basically become a champion and clinch it in 3 rounds, I think it's amazing. I couldn't be more proud of the boys from the work they put in. So.
Well, there you guys have it from Michael Kotowski. Wish them congrats and good luck today, Michael. To you guys as well. I'll send it back to you guys.
Thank you, Caleb. Now, of course, we are about halfway through the warm-up rotation. We've got X30 Junior out on the racetrack. Pro X30 forming up down on the grid as well. We'll be right back after this commercial break here with more coverage of pre-race activity here and warm-up sessions on the final day of action for the Skusa Winter Series.
Are you stuck with your kart racing? Not sure the ideal kart setup? Or going to a track for the first time? Well, Kart Class has the answers for you. Our online portal has a wealth of experience and knowledge to help your kart racing. From kart setup advice to track guides that are targeted specifically to your circuit, or the driver coaching aspects with mindset, racecraft and driving techniques. If you want to take your karting to the next level, visit us at kartclass.com.
'26 Cup Kart South Series, February 20th through 22nd at Finish Line Karting. March 20th through 22nd at Daytona International Speedway. April 24th through 26th at Music City Karting. And May 29th through 31st at Bushnell Motorsports Park.
Let's go race.
Come on, man.
Cat food marketing. $9.99 a month.
Dude, Caleb, wake up. Dude, we're live in 5 minutes. Let's go. Come on. What are you doing?
Dude, I'm so sorry. Xander had me in a cat food marketing meeting till like 2 a.m. last night.
Come on, man.
Do you have anything I can drink?
Dude, I got the perfect thing for you. Perico. It's a healthy energy drink alternative.
Perico, non-GMO, gluten-free, kosher, magnesium, B12, B6,
yeah, it's good.
B5, biotin, and 0 sugar? Pericazo.
Try Perico, made with natural ingredients, organic caffeine, and supports your metabolism. Try the new official energy drink of Kart Chaser.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, here to Speedsportz Racing Park. Group number 4, X30 Junior just wrapped up. CRG Pro X30 getting set to roll. And again, now we get a bit of overcast skies. The sun has gone away during the commercial break. It's due to be back at points throughout the day, but it definitely won't be as it was yesterday, hiding from us and allowing the rain to fall. But when the rain did fall, Alexander Vanchev, man, was that kid exceptional, Dave.
Holy smokes. I mean, well, we talked about it. The guys who have done that recently are Jeremy Fletcher and Connor Zilic, right? And Connor Zilic is racing the Daytona 500 today, right? So that should probably set the expectation for how special Alexander Vanchev is, and kind of his coming. That's kind of been his coming out party the last couple of just the minute he stepped in an X30 Pro, it just seems like he's been on the gas and he's taken a next step and gone up to that next level. I mean, when you challenge guys like Ramos, right, in those kind of conditions, I think that says everything that you need to say. So I'm very excited to see what Alexander Vanchev brings, not only today, but throughout the rest of the season, because it could be very special.
And I think what was the coolest part of getting to sit down with the kid at length last night was hearing how much he kind of paid attention to the drivers that he raced against in junior that had moved up in the past 2 years. You know, he was kind of, if you look at the generation of the kids that he was racing against in 2024, he was kind of a half year younger. So he had kind of an option year last year. He could stay in junior for one more season. He had gotten a bit of a later start, as he mentioned. He didn't really, get his start in kid karts like some of the kids that we're seeing on the grid. So he was playing catch up, and he caught up very quickly. I also want to correct myself too. I kept saying Orlando, Florida. I'm used to seeing him so much there. Truthfully, he's a Fort Lauderdale, Miami, Florida native, and he had told me a while ago. I swear I'll have to dig up the footage of Romanian heritage, but it's Bulgarian heritage. I texted with his dad. Again, he had mentioned his dad last night as well. His dad's super proud. He was already cutting more clips, even more so challenging our team of who could cut more clips from the broadcast about that young man. Super proud of his progress, and yeah, his parents may not have been super wild about it at first, but when you have a rock star like that, well, you try to do what you can to support him, and they've done a phenomenal job putting him in, a powerhouse team, a powerhouse environment, like he said. But it was so cool to me, I guess, going back to the fact that he paid attention of what the next step in his journey would be, which would have been doing what he's doing now, moving up into Pro X30, and seeing, okay, this guy who I raced against, he went about it this way, and maybe this worked, but this didn't work. And I mean, I feel like that's part of the reason why he has been like a fish to water in all 3 weekends thus far that he's competed.
Yeah, and of course, I'm going to say what Xander's not going to say, is that he said he watches Kart Chaser to study for the next races. So I think that that's going to set the standard going forward. But the part of the Vanchev story that I find so cool, Xander, is the fact that he's not from a racing family. And to have that self-motivation to convince yourself and learn this sport when you don't have the background of it, when you learned about it from watching Drive to Survive, binging it on Netflix, I think that is a very special story. And it's always cool to see these guys come from outside of racing, right? I think that's actually something that's very necessary for this sport to grow and grow well, is to have talented drivers and come from outside of racing. And so I think that's going to be a very cool story moving forward. And I kind of feel nice because, of course, you guys know my day job is in IndyCar racing, right? And so to hear Alexander Vanchev talk about how, look, the goal of every young driver is to go to Formula One, but most likely we're probably going to see him in American open wheel racing at some point. So to be able to see these kids come up and kind of know their background and know where they come from and know their stories as they move forward, I think that's extremely valuable. So a kid like him, definitely I'm keeping an eye on from now on, that's for sure, because he's got a hell of a lot of talent.
And what's interesting right now, as we look at the time charts as well, is the limited number of drivers that are able to even get to the limit this early on in the day. I mean, we saw right there as Alexander Vanchev was going by, that's one of the Norberg Karting Academy GFCs that had a bit of a spin. I think that might be Karamseli, Sergey having a run out of turn number 11. But at the moment, Vanchev right back up there in the mix of it. But it's Keegan Kaminsky, Jesus Vasquez Jr., Donovan Bonilla, and then Oliver Hodgson, who was third yesterday. Let's talk about the points situation here for Hodgson. I'll paint the picture a little bit for you, David. While you weren't with us at the Rotax Max Challenge Winter Trophy, Ollie was right there in the mix as well. But Macaulay Bishop was in the position, barring 1 or 2 points that they could give up throughout the day to be able to dethrone him from a championship, which when you talk about someone going somewhere new, on a new go-kart for him, it's a similar environment, but that's a statement going in. We talk about going into the Pro Tour for Oliver Hodgson and Factory Karts. First championship together, and they might win it.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that was a storyline that we kind of identified going in to rounds 1 and 2. And then he comes out of the box, he's extremely fast. And these are conditions that are going to favor him too, right? You have the points advantage, but these are exactly the type of conditions you see Oliver Hodgson excel at, although I would say Alexander Vanchev goes to the top of the board. So I think the kid's definitely going to challenge him today. I think the battle for the race win's probably going to be more exciting than the battle for the championship, but you never know. As you mentioned, there are some scenarios where Oliver Hodgson does not win the championship today, so we'll keep track of it, but it's, you know what? That's exactly what Alexander Vanchev needs to do if he's going to win the championship, is stay ahead of that 359 plate and win.
Yeah, that's the other point too, right? Because if Hodgson were to go second all day, he would actually improve a little bit on his score. If he there's no points for second on back in qualifying. It's just a 10-point bonus for qualifying on the pole. In the pre-final, I think it's a 5-point swing from first to second. So that would put him at essentially 95 points, and maybe 90, and I'll double-check the math on here as well, but then it's 180. So if you do the math on all that, he could end up at 270, and then that would put the pressure back on Vanchev to have to basically go 10 points shy of a perfect day just to tie him, or a perfect day, fast lap in the main event win, pre-final win, pole award, and qualifying for the 10-point bonus to get 320. And that's kind of how you're having to judge off the drop scores. And if we learned anything for the Pro X30 class, the last time we talked about Superkarts USA points with them, and the best -1 round was the Pro Tour finale in Newcastle last year. And going into Sunday, it was okay. As long as, or going into the weekend, Ryan Norberg had 4 consistent runs. He could sit back while he gets wrecked on round number 5, and then round number 6 ends up having the bumper ripped off in the main event. Goes back on drop scores. Garrison was more consistent over the original 5 rounds, and he gets the title after getting destroyed on lap 1 and finishing 18th. And he didn't even need to be out there driving, but he was still digging for more points if it ended up having to come to that. So there's certainly still that window of uncertainty, but coming into today, Oliver Hodgson's in the driver's seat, pressure on Vanchev, pressure on Gus Lawrence, and that's it for the title fight in Pro X30. But like you said, we kind of got robbed of the racing. Round 2 in the dry. What a phenomenal barn burner main event where we treated to in January. And I'm hoping that the track, again, dries up just enough. I'm okay if some of the hazards stay there, because I think it actually adds a bit of a curveball to the field. But I'm hoping we get to see that, because based on what the lap times looked like Friday afternoon, we added probably about 3 or 4 more drivers with pace to be able to get into that kind of 6-car lead group we saw on Sunday. So I'm super excited to see what that could do if we get a dry race altogether. And there's nobody right now that I think is hoping for that and looking for another opportunity. I wouldn't say to redeem himself, but to finally get the monkey off his back and get a Pro X30 national race win, and that's Blake Nash. P2 at round 1, right in the mix in the fastest kart at round 2. And for round 4, he's standing by here this morning with Caleb.
Yeah, thank you, Xander. And Xander was just saying, right, a barn burner of a first weekend. Last time out here, we were battling for the lead and battling for race wins all that weekend. Yesterday, a little bit of a struggle in the rain. Just tell me how this weekend's gone for you up to this point.
Yeah, we definitely struggled a bit in the rain. I think in the dry conditions, we were really fast. Heat race, I was able to go from the mid-pack up into the top 5, and I think I had a little bit more in it still. But yeah, just in the rain, struggling for grip, and I don't know. I think I had some tire issues going on because we had one specific set. We didn't go the new batch of tires like most people did, and it looked like me and Paulie were kind of in the same boat, like just chilling around in 12th, 13th, and kind of missing like 2 seconds in pace all of a sudden. So yeah, it's unfortunate that a race like that kind of puts you out of the championship battle now. And but yeah, trying to keep my head forward. We have a dry day today. It doesn't look like we have any rain on the forecast, so I want to finish off this championship strong and try to win on track.
And again, keeping your head forward, right? How difficult is that, especially today, cooler temperatures as well. There's a lot of things that have kind of changed throughout the weekend. How do you keep your head forward as well? How do you go out there and win your first Pro X30 national race?
Just take it one step at a time, like I always have. You know, yesterday's race is already behind me. I got my eyes forward for today. It's a fresh start, so I think we were pretty quick this morning considering the conditions and the traffic I had. So, yeah, I'm ready to go for today.
Thank you, Blake.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for Blake Nash. As he mentioned, he's just barely outside that mathematical cut zone that we have kind of laid out for you guys, right? He's 74 points back out of the championship lead, so today's just about kind of going for the win. As he mentioned, bit of traffic and a pretty sizable delta through the field in the practice session that they just had. I think we'll see probably a lot of the same in these final couple of sessions, and we honestly might see a pretty decent-sized delta even in qualifying, because now that the sun's gone away, we had quite a bit of sunshine in those first couple of sessions, David. I thought we were going to be drying out. Alan, the same as well, but we're back to overcast skies, and the forecast is calling for a lot more of this. The damp portions of the racetrack might stay that way all the way into pre-finals.
Yeah, I think that's kind of, you know, it was going to go one of two ways, right? Either the sun was going to come out or it wasn't, and unfortunately it looks like it hasn't. Although I think, you know, kind of we've been talking about this all morning. I think it is going to lead to a little bit more fun. I mean, as you can see right there, going into turn one, that's sketchy. You don't want to get your slick tires on anything resembling a puddle. And of course, we've noticed over the last 3 races here that turn one's one of those places where you see, you know, 2 and 3 wide racing. So I think this is going, these conditions, right, the drivers hate the mixed conditions, but I think us as broadcasters, I think we like it because it's going to be unpredictable, it could be fun, and it could open up some lanes for some drivers to make some moves.
Well, what it certainly does is if you found yourself with too much grip, which I don't think I've come across anyone that has said they've had too much grip at any of the 4 weekends we've been here at Speedsportz Racing Park, but if you have, then this is a godsend right here. I know one race weekend in particular for me, I was gripped up, couldn't seem to get the grip out of the go-kart, felt like I was bouncing to the center of the corner. We had just a light little Florida mist and rain shower coming right before our rain session. First half of the race, when it was like kind of intermediate, I was perfect. I was a rocket ship. And then the track dried up at about lap 5, and then I started going backwards again. And so that's kind of what we might see with qualifying here. They're probably still going to be working on the setup a little bit to try and shoot the perfect gap, because I think I was at least blown away. I don't know if you were, but the moment that we got to slick tires, even talking to the pro shifter guys after their pre-final, but the pro X30 guys when you were interviewing them too, saying, look, we were going as fast as we were on Friday afternoon. That was just 2 sessions after that slick tire swap over, right? Because it happened during KA Senior. Then they had the micros, which are only going to do so much damage in terms of the track evolution, and then X30 Junior. So 3 sessions, 60 to 80 go-karts total, and only 10 minutes a session, and they said the track was back to normal. So we might see pole times that are really quick, even if the track doesn't look that good, because there's just enough, but not too much grip that nobody's stuck to the floor, because they're going to sticker tires, so that'll be interesting. But that's all speculation from up here, right? Let's go back down to you, Caleb. What do you have for us?
Yeah, thank you. And we're about to find out here, standing by with Paulie Massimino. Paulie, yesterday, again, almost a day to forget, right? This session just went second. What's kind of been better about it this morning? What did you guys kind of figure out overnight?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think we figured out anything. Yesterday was just a big miss all around. I still don't really know what happened. I know like last month we were here and it rained for happy hour, and I felt pretty confident. So actually looking at the weather, I was actually kind of excited for the rain, but I don't know. It just seemed like whatever we changed, like the go-kart would not change at all. So the only thing I can think of is we didn't go new rain tire yesterday. We used the ones from last month that only had, you know, happy hour on them. So we didn't really think too much of it, but maybe with them sitting for 4 weeks here and the different big weather swings, maybe that had something to do with it. We're kind of all scratching our heads, and we don't really know what happened.
And I know team owner Brandon Jarskarak getting 1 year closer to Masters' birthday was yesterday. What did he do this weekend to get him another win here?
Yeah, I mean, it would have been nice to win for him yesterday, but, I mean, we tried. I know those guys tried. I tried. We did everything we could, and we just could not make any headway. I mean, like, normally I'm not the best in the rain, but I'm not usually that far off, so it was a bit disappointing. but I mean, just talking to people around the pits, like it seemed like, you know, the tire deal could have been a very good reason, but I was kind of hoping it was still going to be wet this morning so I could go new and see if there was a difference. But yeah, today we're just going to go back to what we've been doing in the dry. We were missing just a little bit through Friday practice, but we're going to keep tweaking on it and try and go for the win.
Thank you, Pauline. Wish you the best of luck today.
Thank you.
Only 2 more practice sessions remain now here, folks. We've got the mini Swifts on the grid and ready to roll, and following them will be Pro Shifter, and then it's time to qualify. So stick with us. We'll be ready for more action on the other side of this quick commercial break here for pre-race coverage from the 2026 Superkarts USA Winter Series season finale.
This is Henry. Henry feels sad. Henry feels sad because it's time for his next big race and his go-kart is in bits. Henry doesn't know that Acceleration Kart Racing is the United States' #1 shop for all of your karting equipment needs. Henry also doesn't know that Acceleration Kart Racing can deliver anything from tires to race suits and even wheels directly to your front door or to the racetrack itself quickly and efficiently, with tech support available 6 days a week. Poor Henry doesn't even know that Acceleration Kart Racing offers free shipping to mainland USA on selected product if you spend $200 or more. Do yourself a favor. Go to accelerationkarting.com and make sure that you are never left stuck on the pre-grid with Henry. Be smart and don't be like Henry.
You have to fight to pull ahead, to find your edge, to do whatever it takes to make you 1/10 of a second faster, smarter, more committed than the other guy, because you've got the kind of passion that can overcome the impossible. And we've got the most powerful performance race fuel available to help you do it. Sunoco Race Fuels. Take the lead.
Welcome back to morning coverage here on the Perico Pit Box. Final couple of warm-up sessions underway. Mini Swift on the racetrack presented by Perezzino Chassis Jig. Yesterday, standout star Mason Brody. What a drive for that RPM Nitro Kart kid. He was having a ball. He was almost crashing into the S's because he was celebrating so much. But you could tell it had meant a lot to him, and boy, did he have to earn it, tracking down the leader from a little ways back.
Yeah, that was a fantastic drive. He's keeping it up today, so I think that, well, as I say that, he goes off the top of the board. I'm just not going to talk, but I'll tell you what, I mean, these kids, we've noticed it this entire winter series, right? They've pretty much been consistently the most entertaining class.
Stealing the show, hands down. And it's not like the Mini Swift class hasn't been exceptional and entertaining to watch over the years. It always is. The package lends itself to it. It's no different than those who love the Mazda MX-5 Cup Series, right? You have a low horsepower package. You have kids that have developed on it in the Micro Swift category. Another driver is going to be making a whole lot of NASCAR starts, and a karting superstar, Brent Cruz, his stepfather, Matt, always used to say, you know, Micro is 90% speed, 10% racecraft. Mini is 90% racecraft, 10% speed. If they're in the dry today, it's going to be crazy. Now, Pro Shifter, bit of a different story. Somehow a mix of both because they're manhandling 6-speed front brake beasts. And Caleb Viesca's down in the pits with one of them.
Yeah, thank you, Xander. I'm sitting by here with Gavin Bailiff. Gavin, you were just kind of out of the fight almost, it seemed like, for the majority of the day yesterday. Third early on with Billy's DNF, and then fourth at the end of it. What did you miss yesterday? And tell me how the weekend's kind of been up leading up to today, to this warm-up session.
Yeah, I don't know if there's been some tire issues, but we're kind of just lost in the practice sessions Wednesday, Thursday, and even on Friday. We just couldn't quite find the pace. The chassis felt really good, the engine felt really good, but we just weren't able to produce lap time. So we kind of went into yesterday, well, fortunately it rained, but we went into yesterday just a little bit blind and just trying to figure out the tire situation, really. Yeah, we didn't quite have the pace to Billy and Morgado, but I think that was just a little bit on the chassis side, just trying to figure out how to get that forward grip coming out of the corner in those wet conditions. And yeah, I think that's just something that we're going to have to work on coming for the Pro Tour, whether it rains or not. That's something that we need to look forward to working on.
Look, and Gavin Bailiff on a Sunday in Houston, Texas at Speedsportz Racing Park has been a match made in heaven more often than not. The last 2 times that we've been here, right? Today, what are you looking for out here in this warm-up? What do you need to do to get the win?
We're trying a bit different things with the chassis, just trying to find some more speed. Yeah, Houston's really good to me on Sunday, so hopefully it remains that way today.
Thank you, Gavin.
Thank you.
Now, unlike last year when he won on Sunday in Houston, Gavin Bailiff will not be catapulted into a championship fight because, of course, this weekend is the championship conclusion. So as we talk about Pro Shifter, similar kind of makeup from what we had in Pro X30 in that Jay Irwin, his string of consistency over the championship right now puts him in a very comfortable spot to play from. And Billy Musgrave yesterday didn't think it was possible. Then all of a sudden it was possible, and it was almost there. If he would have won yesterday and maxed out the main event points to make up for the pre-final crash that he had, he would have still been in contention for today. But it's going to come down to the 2 Burrell Art boys, TKG's Gavin Bailiff, who we just heard from, and Jay Irwin, who you talked to yesterday, to decide the Pro Shifter fight with kind of a must-win situation for Gavin.
Yeah, and well, you know, it helps that as you mentioned it, or as he mentioned it, right? Like, this is a track and driver combination that seem to love each other, especially on Sundays. So I think Gavin's going to have a shot at it. But the problem is that head-to-head, it seems like Jay has just a little bit more. Anytime it's Gavin versus Jay, it seems like Jay comes out on top. Of course, unless it's Sunday, right?
Yeah, unless it's a Sunday main specifically, right? I mean, even in the pre-final last month, Jay Irwin looked good, and they said that they found a bit of a miss in the engine after they began the teardown process from rounds 1 and 2. Like you said yesterday, both he and Gavin, I think, came away with a lot of notes of what in the mixed conditions they would want a little bit different. But I think back to how all the drivers looked through practice day, and I think Gavin was probably on a bit of a different tire sequence than when I was looking at the sessions, comparing himself with Jay, with Billy, and with Morgado. We know Gavin knows his place really well. But pace-wise, initially, it looked almost like it was going to be Irwin versus Billy. And then out of nowhere, you know, by the end of the day, Mateus Morgado finds a ton of speed. And then, of course, yesterday, right, Justin White at rounds 1 and 2, the lone Maranello entry was kind of almost there. He was nipping at the heels of those 3, Irwin, Morgado, or Irwin, Musgrave, and Bailiff, but wasn't quite there. And then yesterday, being the benefit of that outside cleaner groove of the racetrack, drier groove of the racetrack in the pre-final, gets a heck of a launch, follows Mateus all the way down to turn number 6 on the first turn, and then 2 turns later gets cleaned out by his Engine Alliance teammate Billy Musgrave, who self-admittedly said, man, I'm too good to be making mistakes like that, felt bad about it, and obviously Justin, you know, you could see it on his face when you talked to him too.
Yeah, that was tough because, as you mentioned, Justin, I think, was well, I mean, he was a totally innocent bystander yesterday, but he's been a challenger, right? He's 4th in the points. And much like Billy, you know, it's amazing to see 2 championship contenders get taken out in one fell swoop there yesterday. And unlike Billy, Justin wasn't able to come through the field nearly as quick yesterday, so he didn't gain nearly as many points. He's not even, I don't think we're really going to be talking about him as a even remote championship contender. The Billy Musgrave thing, too, I think is quite interesting because these conditions, if you'll remember yesterday, are exactly where he was so fast, right? Morgado mentioned, I mean, obviously he's not competing for the championship, right? But he is competing for the race win. One of the things that Morgado was consistently telling us that he missed out on yesterday were tire pressures. I think if he nails the tire pressures, we're not going to have that kind of, cat and mouse game where he's getting chased down towards the end of the race. So if you're Billy Musgrave, if you're Jay Irwin, if you're Gavin Bailiff, especially those boys in a must-win scenario, you're going to have to beat Mateus Morgado, who, while he's not competing for the championship, he is playing the championship spoiler today.
And it's not an easy track to guess the tire pressure on, because going back to Morgado even too, the other part, when we asked him, hey, where do you feel the ceiling is? What more can you get out of you with the SOTY Kart package? He said, look, man, this is, I believe wholeheartedly, this is the best package on the grid in the world right now, the SOTY Kart shifter package. And he said straight up, I'm not braking hard enough. I don't have the confidence yet and have adjusted my field to believe that the go-kart's going to stick if I go in 10 feet deeper and press the brake pedal that much harder into the corner. He said, I feel like if I can work on that, then I'm going to be a real force to be reckoned with. And I personally compare his style and how his hands are to like Senna Van Wallstein from Vegas. Senna manhandles the go-kart. That guy's hands are busy. In fact, he talked about it when we talked to him at the pit box in Vegas, that his big thing was trying not to overwork the front tires that he kind of did earlier parts in the previous year, along with tapping a barrier and making a mistake being aggressive early. So he was having to adjust to the longer sessions. Musgrave even commented on our Instagram post yesterday saying, man, where's my 25-lap main at? Because they went 20, which, of course, is what we'll have for Pro Tour. They're on the standard distance main of the regular classes. But, I mean, it is, no better, I guess, test. At the same point, no more difficult to have faith that the brakes are going to work and that you're going to be able to go in that much deeper in the corner and still get slowed down and the kart is going to have the grip to stick than this. This is low grip, intermediate conditions with slick tires on the racetrack. So in a way, a good meat grinder for Mateus in terms of warming up for this year. But if that's what he needs to be able to have the speed that Billy does, today's going to be a tough one to do that versus a track where the sunshine and ton of grip and you really have that belief. You don't have that as a driver when you see the sun's not out there and the track is dark.
Well, it's a good test. And it's so interesting that you bring up the Senna Van Wallstein comparison, because that was something I specifically asked Mateus at Vegas. What is Senna doing that you're not? And one of the things that came up, and he's been honest about it the entire time, is the braking. So if Mateus just needs to learn how to manhandle this go-kart well, today would probably be a good day to test that. And also, again, the only thing that you might throw away here if you're Mateus Morgado is a race win. You are not competing for a championship. There's no better test day than not having that pressure. So today, like you mentioned, might be the perfect day for him to really learn this go-kart and not just have to worry about taking a win. As we see right now, Billy Musgrave about 0.3 of a second ahead of Mateus Morgado. So these two are going to be the ones, it looks like, that will battle for the win today, unless things change.
Yeah, we have yet to see Gavin Bailiff and Jay Irwin, it looks like, really put in a heater. There's Bailiff's first kind of push lap, drops him up to 5th. How about Ashton Henkel on the PSL Karting Bureau Art? Him and his father's dad was texting me a little bit last night, too. They had a ton of fun trying some alternate strategies throughout the day, seeing what could work. He said, yeah, we rolled the dice. We lost, but we had a blast. He said this was one of the most fun days. We're probably one of the only people in the paddock that I know of that was actually still enjoying the fact that they got caught out by the interchanging conditions and going one way or another. Everybody else was like, no, even Mateus, and he wasn't working on the go-kart, saying, I just want to be all rain or all dry. I don't want to have to, constantly go back and forth and back and forth. But they enjoyed it. And for Ashton, this is the beginning of year 2 in Pro Shifter competition. So using the Winter Series once again, getting to learn from the PSL karting boys that have won this championship multiple seasons on over, and now the pressure on Jay Irwin to continue that hot streak. He's looking pretty solid. He's up above a lot of his teammates right now, and still Irwin right now is not really clocked in a good time. As I say that, there we go. Took a minute to warm it up. There's a good time right up 6,000ths off Billy.
Yeah, that's what we expected right there, because it was interesting. The two Bureau Arts were 1.3 seconds off the pace most of that session, but right there at the end, Jay Irwin draws even with Billy Musgrave and actually puts half a second on Mateus Morgado as well as Gavin Bailiff. So there you go. The top 4 that we kind of expected would be up there are exactly where we expected them to be. And in fact, Mateus Morgado, there he is, goes to P2 right at the end of the session. So we've got 3 go-karts within a 1/10 of a second. That's not too bad, is it?
No, not too bad, but it is unfortunately a little bit bad right now for Gavin Bailiff for what he was probably hoping to extract out of this practice session, because he finds himself kind of in the midfield with the likes of Cooper Becklin and crew. He picked up a little on the last lap, but not nearly enough, right?
Yeah.
I mean, still being 4.5 tenths off, and specifically 4 tenths off of Irwin. He needs a big time, a home run level Sunday. Sun's not out. The sun's been out both times that he has won on Sundays, so maybe he can hope to the gods above and get some sunshine. I know we'd appreciate it. Actually got a little bit cold up here, so that'll be a good note for us to send off this morning's Perico Pit Box. Of course, we'll be back with Perico post-race coverage and podiums at the end of the day. David will still be roaming the grounds. I got to get over to the announcing booth, as does Caleb Vieska. But as we wrap things up for Pro and Master Shifter, Billy Musgrave fastest at a 50.712. Morgado, Irwin right there with him, and the rest of the field chasing those boys. Qualifying up next on the other side of this break.
PSL Karting, the official leader of the Red Army and Burrell Arts North American distributor and official factory race team, housing a number of top names and top-level data analysis and driver coaching from cadet to full-size racing action across the United States and Canada. If you want to race or check out any online parts that you may need for your Burrell Art chassis, check us out online at pslkarting.com.
Champions aren't just born on the kart track. At SimShop, we deliver professional-grade simulators with the best performance-to-price ratio in the industry. Founded by racers who understand what you need, our SimMagic and Moza equipment is powerful enough for the pros, yet affordable for everyone. With unmatched customer support and a thriving community, we're your racing partner. Visit simshop.com today.
Welcome back here to the on-track action qualifying. Getting set to go underway. The TKG Burrell Art KA100 Junior class works its way out on the racetrack. Easton Cox, Jackson Baldus, two of the high-five performance drivers out of Oklahoma, lead this field away. Easton Cox, round one winner, looking to pick up a little luck in comparison to what he had yesterday. And likewise for Jackson Baldus, just looking for a little more here today. And again, they're in this second group. The majority of the class is split in two outside of the KA100 Masters. But again, drivers from this bottom half looking to get themselves in the front half of the field here. And when we were talking about everything that kind of happened overnight, the rain, the weather, track evolution's been one of the biggest conversations that we had so far today, Xander, right? Still a lot of standing water, and you got to imagine, right, with 20-plus karts out there on the track, clearing out some of that water in Turn Number 1, this track is only going to get better session after session.
I think it's already going to be pretty close right now. I mean, the only thing that's going to be a bit of an oddball, like you said, is the water, but you look at how dry the majority of the surfaces, I'd call it maybe 75% light patching and 25% dark patches there in Switchback City. Now down the straights, a little bit more of a 50-50 blend like right here. The more they pass, though, in these practice sessions and qualifying sessions, the better it'll widen the groove out for racing. Gus Lawrence made a good point. You know, when you get the rain, you kind of clean all the crud off, and Allen as well, right? The Evenco tire, the current iteration of them, has been used for not just the Winter Series, but the Rotax Max Challenge Winter Trophy. It doesn't lay down a lot of grip, but it does ball up in chunks, and you kind of can see them as they enter the S's in turns 1 and 2 offline. But when you have the rain come through, and then everybody also have to adjust their driving line and go to the outside of the corners, go way, varied versus a single lane groove like it is in the dry, it clears a much wider path for us, and then it lends itself to some really good racing where if you go to the outside groove, if you get past, or if you're trying to make a Superman move around the outside, you can do it. You're not instantly going into a field of debris. So with that said, and with how dry the track looks, I think we're still going to be on track to run times close to what they did in yesterday's sessions, which right now for KA Junior, they're not necessarily far off at all here in this first group of 57.68 for Easton Cox. And when you look at, for him and Jackson Baldus and the High Five crew, last month they were amazing in the dry. Yesterday didn't treat them too well in the rain. I'm sure they're among the many, like Gavin Bailiff, hoping for dry weather today because they would love to repeat the performances that the High Five performance team had in January.
And again, to do that, it's also adapting to the different weather today, right? A lot cooler. We're down in the 50s at the moment, and well, now 61 degrees. But you kind of talked a little bit about it today as well, right? It's just all these differences, and with this cooler temperature, how big of a difference do you think it makes as far as tire pressure goes, as far as, maybe carburation goes with these KA engines?
I mean, the motors are going to run better the cooler that we are. So if anything, they're probably closer to where they were at the opening round when it was a bit chillier for both rounds 1 and round 2 of the Skusa Winter Series. But from an air pressure standpoint, yeah, you're going to pump the tires up a little bit more. I'm always the one that probably goes a bit more aggressive by the conditions. It really depends on the driver that you have. I mentioned a bit of the difference of style from, Morgado and Van Wallstein and Pro Shifter, and the same you'll have in all other divisions. A mix of driver height and how busy their hands are on the steering wheel, it is going to determine how aggressive you can go with lower air pressure, because once you get past peak performance, whatever that perfect number is, and it changes by the condition of the track, the driver you have, the setup on the go-kart that you have, of course, and the tire compound that you're running. Once you kind of go over the limit, then you fall off a cliff and you lose a lot of pace, right? Like David mentioned about Morgado, the pace was good right out of the gate, better than most, but it fell off by the second half of the race session. Qualifying is not going to matter. You're going to have to air it up regardless, but with a track that is still so much different in terms of surface temp and air temps, a lot of what you learned from Friday is probably not going to transfer nearly as well as it would have had we not had the rain yesterday, and more than anything, if we would have still had the sun shining through the whole batch of warm-up sessions, because we were tracking really good. Like, we were going to get instantly back to those conditions from the heat of Friday afternoon, the sunshine of Friday afternoon, and all of that intel, all the learning that everybody did on their go-karts and their driving from practice day would have transferred over. And then the sun went back behind the clouds, and I think it's supposed to pretty much stay that way through the duration of the day. So does that mean you can go maybe a bit more aggressive with your carburation, or you make the motor a little bit lean on the fuel mixture, right? You kind of close the needles, so you have a little less gas flowing into the carburetor, run a little better. You don't want to go too lean. If it doesn't have any gas coming in, well, then it's going to obviously blow up. So funny, we talk about that now in carburation. Nobody better about running motors lean and then potentially blowing them up than a guy working in the tech area, Mr. Mike Geeson. Yeah. He's notorious for it over his years of playing on the needles. But I think you'll see that in KA, maybe even more than X30 in the pre-finals, that you'll see drivers take their right hand, reach right in front of the shark fins, is where the carburetor is on the front side of the motor, and just make a small adjustment down the straightaway. I don't know if they'll have enough time, or if any of the juniors you'll see try to make adjustments in qualifying, because it's so short. You just want to have them focused on hitting their marks and extracting the most out of it. And with how cold it is still, how damp the track is, the last lap I think is going to be the money lap. It was in that session. I mean, we were talking, the last time we talked about the times for Jackson Baldus and Easton Cox, they were at 56.7s. They got down to a 56.3. I think the same is going to be the case here as we follow Travis Pettit and yesterday's winner, Nico Kotowski. They're fully locked on right now. They're not playing any games and trying to find a draft. I think the biggest benefit they can get is maximizing every single second at full push mode from the moment they leave the grid, so they get those tires as hot as possible for that last lap. And by being the first couple on the racetrack, they might get a lap extra compared to the back half of this fast group, just because of when that timer is going to hit zero.
Yeah, and for those of you at home, this the way they kind of worked their way out onto the racetrack for qualifying is the same order that they ended in the happy hours. So same as yesterday, Kotowski's in the same track position where he was able to take pole yesterday by 0.7 of a second over everybody else in this field. So if you're
a driver like Travis Pettit looking for those 7/10 over 1 lap pace, it's going to be something to kind of keep an eye on, right? It's going to be ringing in the back of your head of, all right, Katowski's good over that 1 lap pace. He's good in the qualifying session. I need to, get on with it, put myself in a good position here to try and start on the inside. We've seen how important it's been as well this weekend with starting on the inside line, having a little bit of an advantage, and also like we mentioned, right, still not too bad to start on row number 1. So give and take nonetheless, but first couple laps gonna start to come in. Travis Pettit finds himself down in 10th. Nico Katowski, yesterday's pole sitter, like I mentioned, down in 20th. The only benefit here that Pettit does have is he's having a little bit of a reference for Katowski, and that's worked for Pettit because he's up to 4th. But not as good as it worked out for Tristan Murphy. Nico Orbezo there on the Iron Rock Motorsports machine. The 838 is right behind Murphy, who's fastest right now, and Murphy's behind Pettit, so on and so forth. And this is where the draft is also going to have a little bit of an effect, right? Like we've mentioned so much this weekend. So this group, I would say maybe here, Xander, a little too close for comfort in between the top 3 at this stage.
It's close, but again, if they're all running the same speed right now, it's not the end of the world. It just depends if any of them are a little bit faster. Obviously, the 2 of them have rolled up really nicely to Nico Katowski, but Nico's still hitting his marks pretty well. So let's see here in the boot. Is Travis going to pull the trigger and go past him? I think he's going to leave some faith in the TKG Bureau Art driver to hit his marks one more time, because this should be the start of the last lap. You see Aaron Likens leaning over the edge of that flag stand, keeping his eye on the stopwatch. And this lap here, Travis, at least based on what we're seeing at the start of it, is going to try to push Nico along and see what they can do together versus running the risk of having to go offline and make a pass. But the question will be right here on the backstretch. No, he's going to go for it. So this will hurt Katowski majorly. Nico right now is down in 7th. It's going to hurt Murphy. It's going to hurt Orbezo. Travis might be the only one to get a good lap here. Golseth, back of the train last lap, went to the top, but he's going to catch them probably at an awkward point too. So it's going to probably come down to if Travis Pettit, with that slingshot engage move in turn 6 at the end of the backstretch, ends up okay. And you see Golseth, he kind of had to pinch the exit there because Orbezo passed Murphy in front of him. So it's going to be Pettit, maybe the only one to dethrone Golseth out of this main group. Coming to the checkers now. A 55.42 is the time to beat. Did Hurricane Trav strike? No, and Orbezo did. He got closer. But I think Golseth, being all the way at the back of that train, got a mega toe, and it was unmatched for any of the 4 in front of him to be able to try and mimic that. So Nathan Golseth on pole for Sunday here in KA Junior. Heck of a run on the last lap as well for his teammate. Arthur Barb sneaking his way into the top 5 with a late lap charge about midway through the pack that got that extra lap around. Tristan Murphy and Nico Katowski, right? I mentioned those 2 weren't going to get a chance to improve on the final lap, and it's not like 0.5 of a second is solely the draft difference. I'd mark it at about 3 to 3.5 tenths, but that's why you're seeing such a big swing in the times here. Orbezo with a pass, still able to match Golseth's pace. Saw Nathan Golseth's dad last night at the Perico pit box post-race, and man, we were close again. He knows how good his kid has been performing. I told him, Nathan, I thought drove a very smart race, and sometimes it just isn't your day, but he played that one about as good and as patient as he could. That first big-time win, it's coming. It could be today. He's got the best place to fight from now, provisionally on pole for their pre-final.
And he's already got a couple, right? We mentioned last year whenever we talked about his story a little bit as well, the Miami Grand Nationals K100 shootout winner, and basically called it the all-star race, if you will, quote-unquote, for the K100 juniors over at the Miami Grand National Championship. Able to win that. But coming up next, the KA seniors hit the racetrack, presented by Barcelona Racing, and Aiden Rudolph looking to get it on the pole at home.
Got to get an anniversary present, but he's got a lot of talent going his way. We'll be right back.
IAMI USA West is the official West Coast importer for IAMI engines and parts. Our dedicated and knowledgeable staff have a combined 50+ years experience in the sport and can help you with all of your needs. Call us today or visit our website to find your local dealer to shop.
Cool features that Race Studio 3 has that people normally don't know about it. The track map on the background. So if you just connect your computer to the internet, you can come up here and click on this Google Earth icon, and it will pull the background from the Google Earth into your GPS data. If you want to learn more about data analysis, you can sign up on my website right now. Enjoy the online course today.
Are you looking to take the next step in your racing journey? Well, look no further than PitFit.
With 2 locations in Charlotte, North Carolina and Indianapolis, Indiana, PitFit trains drivers all the way from grassroots level karting to IndyCar and NASCAR with top-of-the-line personalized coaching to improve physical and cognitive fitness.
For more information on programs, check out PitFit on Instagram or Facebook.
Well, we saw them before the break getting ready to go. Now they're on the racetrack. First couple out, Landon Skinner, Aiden Rudolph, Max Weiland, Matt Cagle there making a pass on Chris Harrower. And right behind him, Wrigley Keys. Landon Skinner, so much speed, fighting in the top 3. He and Chase Gassiet-Lee were hunting down the race leader in yesterday's pre-final, only to collide coming into the boot there, sending Landon all the way to the back of the field. Valiant effort for the young man. He was able to drive from 31st in that main event to get up to 10th. But boy, oh boy, would this be a very special victory or podium if he can pull off a major result today. And he certainly should be able to, based on how qualifying was for him yesterday. In the slow group and still punching his way comfortably into the top spots on the grid for the pre-final. He looks pretty comfy right now, already pulling a bit of a gap back to Rudolph. So a lot of speed. I think when I've driven around him, which I have quite a few times over the years, that he has had such a good feel that has developed for him with the go-kart. He's been pretty much with Trackside Karting Services, the local GFC Texas dealer this weekend with the Norberg Academy National Program. But that chassis has been right there with his progression, and he has kind of morphed his driving to it, that no matter the condition, he was always one of the drivers I knew was going to be able to be by himself, didn't need a kart in front, and be fast. And he's putting it on display again right now, leading this pack around. Aiden got a better run in the S's, so he'll close up to him, but I think Skinner still is going to be the one to watch in this first group session.
Yeah, one of the things that kind of it's standing out to me here, if you see the pipe that he has on, it's quite purple, brand new, shiny. How much of a difference does that make, putting something new on the engine, if you will?
Well, that's, you know, what you have in a spec category, right? You're kind of you're part picking, if you will. You're looking for any given edge, because while there are engine builders in the IAME classes, just like there are Rotax service centers, so there's different support groups that are going to be doing the dyno work, replacing the parts on your motor and telling you what carburation settings to run and trying to get you the best piece possible. One of the running theories that has been around for quite some time is that a fresh pipe is going to have a little better performance than a used one. So I think he's far from probably the only driver that's going to be on the grid today looking for a fresh pipe to put on the package, maybe not even putting it on until after warm-up is done and running it in qualifying, just to look for that last little bit extra of pace. I mean, this engine package debuted in the States nationally in 2017, and we've certainly raced it quite a lot. We've had a lot of years learning on it. The builders have had it for quite some time, so it's not like there's a whole lot new to find. And at that point in the evolution curve of an engine, now almost in its 10th season of being raced, there's not much left to gain at this point. Everyone kind of knows the ins and outs of it. So if that's going to work for him, if that's going to make a difference in power, yeah, I think he's far from the only one that we might see with a brand new pipe on the package. But obviously right now, Aiden Rudolph has a bit of a leg up on him. Made the pass there on the last lap, so sadly that'll hurt Landon's chances. He's still third in this group run. Matt Cagle second, following the pair of them. But Aiden Rudolph didn't need it, and now a new face, Josh Subvalis, who was the other driver that was right in that same kind of pocket of him in yesterday's qualifying session here in the slow group. The Pfaff Kart Sport crew have him tuned up. That's a 55.21. 200's better than Rudolph. And it looks like they were one of the only couple of drivers that made it in to get a bonus lap. I don't think Subvalis did. It's just this three. So second, third, and fourth going to get one more chance at it. Landon Skinner trying to push Aiden. Matt Cagle's going to be in a perfect spot here to close this lap. Now look how much deeper he can go to the boot.
If he gets out of that decent and gets a nice toe to the straight, Cagle might be able to dethrone all of them. Let's see it. To the line, yes! Matt Cagle, fastest in the first group, 55.208. Rudolph and Skinner improved their times, and that's more important than anything else because they need to be able to punch their way, hopefully, up through the middle of the fast group yet to roll. But Matt Cagle, 55.208, best Josh Sumvalis, and goes fastest following Rudolph and Skinner across the line here in the first of two groups for KA100 Senior. But yeah, fresh pipe. Normally you're going to probably replace the parts in the carburetor with the different gaskets overnight. Just everything, every last little bit of performance you can extract. You're looking for thousandths and hundredths of a second when everyone's on the same package, and the rule book again is all OEM parts, right? You can't machine anything, you can't modify anything on these motors. You're just trying to tune them to the best of your ability. And again, if a fresh piece is going to work out a little better, then you're going to go for it. So there's a lot of different theories across the different teams of how best to attack it, but ultimately they're all doing the same thing, just trying to look for any minor, minuscule edge. Maybe a fresh pipe might do it for Landon Skinner of what he needs out of his piece, but he's fourth out of that group. The time for him, again, just shy of a 55.4 middle ground, and comparing again to the times of yesterday, I think we're right about there. I think the track, even with the wet spot that forces you to go a little wider around turn number one, the lower air temp is certainly being more conducive for good speed out of these engines. So we're just about there. We're just about to the point, I feel like, where the track was lap time wise, at least when we concluded happy hour.
Oh yeah, it's definitely not too far off. And you were talking about kind of looking for fresh things. Speaking of some of the drivers this morning, Rudolph was one of those, putting on a different engine today. Felt like he was down on power yesterday, swapping that over. Looked like trying to make the difference. And again, for these drivers here, their qualifying session yesterday, we remind you, right, Skinner, the pole position came out of that slower group, and that was Landon Skinner. So these guys just, it's all about positioning, kind of like we saw there. Cagle going a little bit faster, just being, having a good gap, and we'll see how these drivers place themselves. Vanchev, like we said, right, very good in the mixed conditions, on slick tires, and in the main event was able to get the win yesterday. Garzone, another one that we're looking for, who, again, is looking to make an argument for a championship maybe here with a good drive yesterday. Vanchev, not in it, didn't run the first two rounds, but like we've kind of mentioned, right, a lot of these drivers, this is also another class where that championship battle is going to be close. Colin Lloyd was a winner at round number 2. Sebastian Garzone was also a winner that weekend. Yesterday was Vanchev, so talk about Colin Lloyd, Garzone, those two drivers needing to get something out of this qualifying session to put themselves up front as Paramo, hand in the air, and let a couple of drivers pass.
Yeah, they're going to be looking now for the toe more than anything. Yesterday we were thinking that the track conditions were going to be the difference from the fast group to the slow group. I think today might be more of that. I'll correct myself. They were down in the low 54s in Friday practice, so we're not quite there yet. We might see a big swing in the times here with the fast group going out and getting a drier and more warmed up racetrack as we see Chase Gassie lead now making a move past Paramo. But the KA Senior Championship indeed is very close, and for Colin Lloyd with a big send there and much needed to get up the leaderboard, he was DQ'd post-race tech inspection yesterday. Minor issue for the Velocity Sodi driver after finishing on the podium on the racetrack. That puts him down the board tremendously in the point standings. In the form of, with the drops coming in, he's got nothing to fall back on today. He has to perform today. The drop standings coming into today, he looks great. He leads the standings at 550, so his best 2 of the 3 rounds is better than anyone else by 6 points over Sebastian Garzone, by 40 over Mateo Rubio Luengo, who's been consistent. He has the highest drop of anyone in the top 5, so he can fade back a little bit. But because the top 2 in the point standings both have very, very low drop scores, all of a sudden you can draw the line way back. Perkins 4th with drops factored in coming into today, but he has a high drop he can fall into. Bonilla 106 back. Gassie Ali 135 back. Matt Cagle 186 back. That's probably a bit optimistic knowing how many drivers are in front of him that all are perennial front runners, but realistically you've got 5 or 6 drivers that are in contention for the championship. Qualifying going to set the tone for it. and maybe I'll stand corrected. We're down to a 54.6. Fast time in happy hour was Vanchev at a 54.3. We've still got this lap that we're working on. The front couple might even get another one. Yellow flags waving. This is the bonus lap for them, so looks like about 10 of them got across the line before Aaron Likens threw the double sticks.
And I'm not sure where that cutoff was. Lloyd was definitely close to it. It looked like Garzone may have gotten it. And I think they're going to take a look at it. Vanchev, though, going to be the first across the line. He's currently third, looking for about 600ths. Across the line this time by for Vanchev. He's going to get the provisional pole, 54.674. And there's going to be more movement. Perkins, who's going to be to the top? Mateo Rubio Luengo. I was just thinking, hasn't made too much noise. He's going to make it now, though, a 54.373. And when you're fighting for a championship on Sunday, that's exactly the way you need to get it kicked off. On the right foot, Mateo Rubio Luengo on the pole, as Garzone going to get himself up to third, another one of the protagonists here this weekend.
Yeah, DNF in yesterday's main event for Sebastian Garzone after a crash in the pre-final. He only got 30 points scored, so he and Colin Lloyd pressure on Sunday to perform more than the rest. They need a great day. They start on the second row, side by side. And again, Mateo Rubio Luengo, third, 40 points back. Mark him now 10 points back. That's a 10-point bonus in qualifying. 30 points separate your top three. KA Seniors Championship gearing up to go all the way down to the wire. And Georgia's own Mateo Rubio Luengo with Brandon Jarsikrak racing on top in qualifying by a lot. Big tow lap, nearly 2/10 up on the field. His teammates here, a little more work to do for rookie Jordan Klein in her first national weekend in quite a while in the KA senior classes, making her progression up from the Briggs 206 senior ranks over the last couple of seasons. Chris Hare, we're back there with her. And then here, a couple drivers with a lot of work to do. We've seen Anthony Rivera win at the Skusa Winter Series, all the way back in 40th with some problems obviously going on and plaguing the Nash driver here in qualifying. Vladimir Prodavich as well, and Shane Reddy, who hovered to the top 15 all weekend at rounds 1 and 2. They're going 42nd and 43rd on the grid for the pre-final. That's a lot of work to do to get your way to the front. But 30 points now separate the top three in the KA Senior Championship standings, factoring in potential drops. Colin Lloyd, the points leader, 6 up on Sebastian Garzone, and only 24 back from Garzone, 30 out of the lead now with the 10-point bonus in qualifying is Mateo Rubio Luengo, your pole winner. Cash Perkins still in the fight, 75 back out of the points lead. Donovan Bonilla again, 106 back in 5th if you factor those drops in. But mind you, again, Rubio Luengo at 234, that's a pretty solid score in a stacked grid because only 320 points are available total on a perfect style day, getting the pole, fast time in the main, and winning the pre-final and the final. And the final is where the big amount of points are going to be divvied up. So you're only going to see so much movement based on how the pre-final goes, with only 100 points to the winner and 90 to second. 200 points and a 20-point swing from P1 to P2. It is very realistic to think that Rubio Luengo could take that pole in qualifying, outrun Lloyd and Garzone in the pre-final, and put some serious pressure on the two of them for a winner-takes-all scenario between your top three drivers in today's main event. But let's switch our focus here to one class that already has their championship clinched. Jack Katowski, first and only driver from what I can tell right now, enters Sunday with no pressure whatsoever. He's in the fast group for Micro Swift, so we won't see him on the racetrack for another 5 minutes, but he is off of 3 consecutive Skusa Winter Series main event wins and near perfect scores, entering Sunday with a huge points lead that mathematically eliminates the rest of the field. And the only other driver I'll update as well, I wasn't sure with how things were going to shake out from yesterday, but I can confirm it now. Brian Bowley has mathematically locked the championship in KA 100 Master by a mere 10 points with how good his drop score is over the first 3 rounds, his lowest of the opening 3 on the season. So KA 100 Master and the class on the racetrack now, Micro Swift, those championships are sealed. The championship podium still very much up for grabs. Tristan Francisco, Dusty Strayer, and even going all the way back to the likes of Max Santana, Shep Sullivan, and Andres Marcelo Pena, I think, is going to be the first one mathematically eliminated. Shep Sullivan would be mathematically eliminated from second,
as a potential if he doesn't score the pole here in qualifying. But Dusty Strayer and Tristan Francisco entered today, only 30 points separated, only another 36 back to Max Santana. So second, third, and fourth, the final 2 spots on the championship podium will be what'll be up for grabs in terms of the point standings and Micro Swift, presented by Avinco Tires, and also this weekend presented by Grupo Santana Vega and Team Benek. This weekend they have a little bit left to play for, albeit the final title spot is locked. But that's, again, the outside storylines. The inside of the race day, forgetting all of that, is getting determined right now. First couple laps at speed across the line. Romeo Ferrante at the front of this group in the white and green. Orsilon Racing Tony Kart setting that initial pace and then getting bested by the CRGs behind him. First, Rodolfo Garza on the 222, and as well Franco Schiavo in the 246. Franco had a rough run yesterday in the main event, Caleb. He's back there 5th in the line, coming to us here in turn 6 in that blue and yellow helmet. So they're in a primo spot, chasing down the fast 3 from Friday Happy Hour.
Yeah, Franco had a couple of good performances out in Orlando not too long ago at the Florida Winter Tour, fighting for a couple of wins. Just looking for a little more here in Texas. He's working quite well with a fellow Kart CRG USA teammate and Rodolfo Garza, the 2 of them. Right behind Bodie Beyer, the first of the MSO Racing CRGs there as well. But talk about Cohen Scott right there in 3rd. Ferrante's been fast, and he's the one kind of leading this entire group away in the 205 Orsilon machine. Here goes another lap number 2, lap number 3 here. And Garza improves, so does Cohen Scott on the Kart Republic for Jay Howard Driver Development. He's up to the pole, 101.164. You'll see some fast lap times here, maybe down to the minute, and maybe even down to the 59s throughout this weekend, and that should probably take a while here for these Micro Swift drivers to get there, depending on how this track develops nonetheless. But a move like that will put Garza in a better position to try and draft up to the 218 of Wiley Lee. And again, yesterday it was Jack Katowski on the pole by half a second. And it was just, again, like I've said so many times already today, the track position for Katowski has been good. And for all these drivers, anybody else that is able to kind of take the challenge, it would be a breakout victory for any of them if they can take the fight up there. Francisco's been close. Dusty Strayer got it done in the pre-final. Just couldn't quite solidify it in the main event. Like you said, this championship gets close for the podium. And for these drivers, it's going to be close. Checkered flag flies, and there's some movement. Schiavo to the top, Garza to Scott now up to 3rd. And Wyatt White puts himself into the top 5 here to round up the first half of our qualifying session for our Avinco Tires Micro Swift drivers. Franco Schiavo, currently the fastest with a 60.737 to Garza. Just 0.03 of a second back to Scott, looking for 2/10. And Tristan Francisco, who starts up at the front with Katowski, gonna look to get himself 1 spot better than what he ended up yesterday here, Xander. Francisco, Canadian national champion in 2025, looking to become a first-time U.S. national champion later on in the year. This weekend, looking to get himself on the podium.
Yeah, Tristan Francisco, big-time win at the IAME Grand National Championship, and now,
Liam
Francisco?
Liam Francisco, correct.
Francisco family's had so many major performances. Jaden Francisco, we won't see him as much stateside this year. He's got a heavy European schedule. Liam Francisco, big win at IAME Grands. Pressure on Tristan. He's got to join the family name as a U.S. national race winner, so you're right. Tristan Francisco. Now, we talk about the Winter Series here in 2026. Spent the first 2 main events basically being the driver right there next to him, and he's now found himself mixed a few competitors, as we mentioned in the championship conversation, right? Dusty Strayer right there in that Parolin has certainly stepped up his game here for weekend number 2 at Speedsportz Racing Park. He has absolutely now put the pressure on Tristan to be able to perform. He's been right there with him time-wise when you look back to Friday Happy Hour. But I think what's most interesting about that time set by Franco Schiavo compared to what he was able to do on Friday, right? Friday Happy Hour, the cut line was 16th. He was 17th, 59.721. And so he was a full second slower than what he was able to do in Friday practice. This is interesting, though, too. Jack Katowski, he has not, from what I can remember here, Caleb, and again, you might be able to correct my memory, I don't think I've seen him play the leapfrog game in any given session yet. in the Winter Series. This is the first time it seems like he's thinking it might be a little bit better to drop behind a couple of the next fastest group of drivers and try to set up a toe lap.
Yes, something different for sure. I don't even think I've seen Francisco finish outside of the top 2 at all in the Winter Series. I think worst race result is the pre-final from yesterday, and I think that was second, where he swept almost the entire weekend over at rounds 1 and 2. But now it's kind of right in the middle of the traffic. Santana's right ahead of him. Strayer's going to get out of the way. Francisco pushing. And yeah, these top 5 are just kind of stepping on each other's toes here at the moment, with Santana going to be the one at the front to Katowski to Francisco, then another one of the Benek machines of, I think what's going to be Bo Wyatt there. So yeah, just boys got to find a little bit of room there. Trey Sanders now joining the party. He's not too far back. Shep Sullivan's right there. So this group quickly is going to turn into about 10. It's not going to open up at the front. Santana's going to be the one to lead. As one going around, that's Botero. Enzo Botero going around just on the entrance end of the boot, right out of the buckle. We work our way here. They have about a minute and a half left, 2 minutes almost. And Katowski now finally going to be able to try and set in a good lap. A little bit of a gap to him and Santana. He's going to be able to draft him and might even have to make a pass here. We'll keep an eye on it here, but Santana going to be the one out in front, and everybody else now with a little bit of track position finally, Xander. Just that lap going to be a burner for everybody. Nobody really put anything relative in.
No, that one is going to mean that it's really going to come down to where the cut line is, of if any of them get past Aaron Likens to get a 4th lap at this point, because time's already at 8.5 on the overall session, so we know more or less it's going to be between 9 minutes, 30 seconds a lap, or 10 minutes is when we'll see that checkered fly. They've been pretty on the money and consistent about where in the just overall lap session time, combining the 2 groups, that 5-minute clock starts and then stops here for the fast group. As they cross the line now, knowing they're at about a minute, I don't know if even the top 3 are going to get a bonus lap on. So this lap could be it for most of the field. Maybe they'll get one more. As things stand, Tristan Francisco, a minute 0.4. Again, mind you, that is still over a 1.5 seconds slower than what he tracked on Friday. So what they do right now to the back of Max Santana will be important. Equally further back, Dusty Strayer dropping to find a place in line. You see the rest of the pack filing on down the back straightaway here as we look for anyone else, and ultimately the gaps of where it's going to be. I think at best we're going to see these 3 get a bonus lap here with how it's tracking.
Yeah, well, Katowski had a pass, and we'll see as soon as the checkered flag flies and Santana going to make a mistake. That's going to trip up Francisco. So we'll see if Katowski was able to get by in time. They're going to exit the boot, and we're about to find out here, Xander.
Yeah, and Tristan kind of half thought about a pass there, then backed out of it. No one's going to get another lap. That might seal it for Francisco. No. Jack Katowski, big lap even with the pass. At the end of the backstretch, able to pull off a 1 minute 0.2. And it gets the pole, 10-point bonus ripped away from Francisco, who would have liked that to bolster his gap back to 3rd in the points. And as the last few cross the stripe, it'll seal it again. Championship be damned. Jack Katowski has continued his dominant streak here with another pole award in qualifying. Tristan Francisco, 2/10 off there, will join him on the outside of the front row once again, as he did at the beginning of both main events of the championship, and he's been nipping at his heels. He was fastest in happy hour. He's not the fastest on Sunday morning, though. That is the TKG Bureau Art driver. Here's the rest of your Microsoft field, 11th through 20th. Trey Sanders, sadly, the streak of him having to charge through the pack is going to continue, it appears. Down in 20th for the Nash driver that has had some phenomenal runs through the field. X30 Junior already rolling on the racetrack now. They are ready to roll. And here we go once again with qualifying. Group number 4 on the racetrack, presented by Rollison Performance Group. And this one led out by Ryan Perry Motorsports' Parker Ives, who you mentioned yesterday, Caleb. Seems like they have brought a different driver here. He has come out swinging for rounds 3 and 4. Much better than kind of a soft start he had in January. The second generation motorsports superstar is Father Greg, a renowned late model racer, and of course, most notably to those that might recognize the Ives name from home, longtime Hendrick Motorsports crew chief in the NASCAR Cup Series and now still finds himself headlining the Xfinity team, which works out a little better to make it to more Parker's go-kart races and follow him along. He's not here this weekend. He's in Daytona for Speed Weeks. We want to wish a lot of love and good luck to all of our racing friends from the karting paddock that are there for the Daytona 500 later today. For us here, here's what it's like in Houston. 61 degrees Fahrenheit, 16 degrees Celsius. Track temp right now, only 63 degrees, only 2 degrees higher than the air temps. And the wind about the same as yesterday. Shouldn't have too much rain or precipitation at all, but the wind staying the same is going to, again, at some point or another, be a headwind on one of the 3 major straights, either right here down the backstretch, the run down the front straightaway, even though it bends coming out of the boot through turn 15 and then into turn 1. It's flat out from turn 14 on, so that's a big slipstream zone. And then equally, not just even the run coming out of the buckle, but this run right here. I mean, you're on the gas from turn 8 through turn 9 full throttle, through that kink full throttle down here into the buckle. So you're going to see even slipstream passes potentially there. With the wind crisscrossing the racetrack, one of these straights, including this one, is going to have it right in the lead driver's face, and it's going to be the reason as to why we seem to think that it's about a 3/10 delta of a toe lap versus not. Let's see what this first lap at speed does for Parker.
Yeah, there you go. Mason Berry's just going to be a little bit faster.
3/10.
And yeah, just that 3/10 different. But you were talking a little about Parker, right? This year, and you talk about the soft launch. Last year, took part of a couple of the X30 Junior events that we had throughout the year across the big 3 national events. But you know, this year he's grown a little bit, right? Gained a little bit more mass, if you will, gotten a little bit taller, and that's really the biggest transition from drivers moving into Mini Swift over into the junior categories, right? You're going into a car that's almost double the size and double the power as well. You're going to from, what is it, 80 cc up to 125. So it's a big swing for those drivers
60
to make.
60 cc.
So yeah,
60 cc to 125 cc, 9 maybe 10 horsepower to, you know, a restricted 28 horsepower package. It probably punches between 24 and 26. So yeah,
it's a big swing for the rookies, right? Clayton Styles another
100 pounds heavier go-kart, 7-inch rear tires from 4.5-inch rears on all 4 sides in the micro and minis. It's physically a huge leap, right? Probably the sharpest leap of them all, both on the upper body overall. Your forearms, your shoulders, your biceps and triceps and wrist strength gets tested with the heavier machinery and higher grip levels. And then equally, the helmet, right? Only a couple pounds, but that ends up with 2.5 to 3 times the actual weight that it feels like on your neck when you push 2 to 3 Gs through some of these long corners. And the high-speed sweeping 180s that we have here at Speedsportz in the S's section as well, that works the body, works the driver quite a bit, not to mention, of course, the rib cage and your core muscles getting beaten up. So after all the days of driving they've had, the rain slows down that corner speed, makes it a little bit easier on them, but some of these young kids here, some of the smaller, shorter drivers you see, they're getting pushed to the limit, and it's a steep hill to climb and a progression they have to progress through quickly if they want to be able to contend over their 2 to 3 year tenure in the category. Mason Berry, once again, resetting fast time. That's a 10-point bonus, as mentioned. Talking about the point scenario coming into today, because of yesterday shaking things up with the leaderboard, Travis Pettit has a drop score that is still good, 225 points, and he leads the championship standings with drops factored in coming into today. But with the max score being 320, that means you draw the marker at 95 points back. That still keeps 3 drivers mathematically able to dethrone him. Ashton Woon, 60 points away. Nathan Golset, 60 points away. Royce Vega, 86 points away in 4th. So entering today, Vega would get eliminated if he does not qualify on the pole, because he's only 9 points to the good of that kind of, you know, fallback line that Travis Pettit's drop score paints for himself. But equally, if Travis puts together a string of top 5 finishes in the pre-final and final, well, things could become much narrower of a window of performance that's required to dethrone him, because 60 points is still a decent-sized cushion. We'll see him on the racetrack in a moment. Checkers obviously have flown for the majority, if not all, of this first group here in RPG X30 Junior. Mason Berry's time of 53.873. Mateo Calderon able to sneak up into the top 3 late on the Speed Concepts Racing entry. Just 13 thousandths off. Then Parker Ives 3rd. Maxwell Macha a couple more tenths back in 4th. So 53.8, 53.9, that's the target to shoot for or better for the second group here of X30 Junior Qualifying. Ashton Woon there on the left in the SCR black, white, and red. And then there's Travis Pettit on the right. So your top two in the point standings. First and second for Friday Happy Hour. And here we go, rolling out onto the racetrack for the first time today in qualifying conditions.
Here we go. Woon's going to lead him out to Katowski, to Travis Pettit, who, again, qualified on the pole yesterday. And after the pre-final, had a post-race penalty, or as you call it, pre-race as well, because he got it on the warm-up lap, taking the field to green just for manipulating the start a little bit too slow. So, again, if he gets it, you know, he's definitely not going to make the same mistake twice here today. But I can talk about rookies. Driver in his second year as well, X30 Junior. At the back of the pack, we saw him. We've seen him quite often here at Speedsportz Racing Park. He's kind of taken the whole preseason here. He was part of the Road Tax Max Challenge Winter Trophy. He was here for the opening weekend as well with the BJR team. Now Paralyn working its way out here this weekend, so we'll see what X30 Junior can do as well. But again, we talked about how critical this first lap is, getting those tires, the Avinco tires, up to temperature, getting them fired off, and getting yourself in a good position as we get this one started. And that puddle looks like it's kind of expanded just a little more there on the entryway to turn number 1, just a little wider, I think, than what it looked like earlier on today. But a couple of movement here. Woon's going to get out of the way, going to look for the draft, and Pettit going to get out of the way as well. Katowski, and this is where that negotiation stage kind of starts, right? Pettit, Woon moved, and Pettit didn't want to be the one in front. Katowski didn't want to be the one out in front either, and Pettit finally was kind of deciding, all right, I guess I'll lead. But you can't spend too much time negotiating there, especially with the cutoff, and we saw it in micro as well, right? Nobody in the field was able to get an extra lap.
Yeah, you're already seeing the timer overall between the two groups at 7.5 minutes. So if they play any more games, again, they're going to give that up. Travis Pettit, at the gap that he has, I think he's probably going to ride this one to the end. The question will now become, can Nico Katowski or Ashton Woon run up to him? You're also seeing quite a bit of spray there through turns 1 and 2. That's because they're trying to not go the long way around and, you know, shorten up the distance from the end of the straight down to turn 2. But the little bit of water you splash on the tires, you saw Nate Golseth, his hands get a little bit busy going through the S's. That's the pushing the limit kind of feeling you have, because if you see the driver in front of you do it and he pulls a bit of a gap, even if he gets sideways, then you have to do the same. It is going to do good for us in terms of raceability, because the more that they go through the puddles, the more it's going to push that water offline. Talking again with Alan Rudolph on the Perico pit box this morning, right? He's said, yeah, we had to spend a ton of money, $250,000 to be able to get the drainage as good as it is here. And one spot, unfortunately, they missed. But again, it's character to me about this racetrack. I think it's cool that we do have some spots that are going to still be a challenge for drivers as the day goes on. And you can see there, Nathan, again, great angle from our crew as he hunts down Jude Thurmalaswamy. Here's Arthur Barb, 4th in K8 Junior Qualifying. Let's see what he can do now. The 727 is currently a little bit further back on the leaderboard, 19th, so nothing yet as the first times come in. The slow group holding station. Travis Pettit, the best he's been able to do is climb his way to P4 as he leads around. And here's Royce Vega, mentioned again, pressure on the 739, 4th in the points, 86 marks back. Pettit's drop would put the dead zone at 95 away. With 10 points on the board, that will then evaporate in qualifying. That means Royce Vega needs a pole award here to keep the championship hopes alive. He'll need a lot of bad luck out of the drivers in front of him for him to go from P4 to P1 in the final standings when the dust settles Sunday afternoon. But it's all beginning right here in this session as the checkers fly.
And Mason Berry still on the pole here. Calderon only second. Parker Ives still holding on a third. This group got another lap, it looked like there, Xander.
Yeah, did Vega make it past it?
I don't think so.
I don't think he did either. He's down in 11th right now and could slip back further if anyone else in this first batch of karts go faster here on this final lap. But Travis Pettit, he takes those 10 points and he puts it on his own scoreboard. It could be huge because, again, he's got a lot of room. 95 points away from a perfect score for his lowest of the first 3 rounds means that he improves that score at all with a good pre-final and the pole in qualifying. It becomes that much harder for anyone to take this championship title away from him. Let's see what he does. To the line, X30 Junior Qualifying at the end. Pettit does it and doesn't have it. Woon with a big lap to storm past him here. Murphy will join them as well. Ashton Woon, pressure on, and he gets the 10-point bonus in qualifying on Sunday. Needs to and does. 50 points now the margin from 60 going into qualifying. Ashton Woon and Speed Concepts Racing are still alive and still in the hunt for this X30 Junior Championship with the Skusa Winter Series. Tristan Murphy will join him on row 1, Pettit row 2 with Katowski on his outside, yesterday's double winner in Junior. Royce Vega, he did make it before the checkers. It was right after him, so he moves up from outside the top 10 into 5th, but again, now not coming away with the pole for the 739, makes it down to 3 drivers eligible for this X30 Junior title fight. Pettit, Woon, and Nathan Golseth, who ended up in the top 10, just not as high as he would have liked to be. But halfway through qualifying now, X30 Juniors all wrapped up. Pro X30 currently on deck and ready to roll for group number 5. And we're ready for them as well. A title fight in this class still up for grabs. Oliver Hodgson leads the point standings, but the Pro X30 drivers are ready for action. We return from Houston.
Today.
Cat food marketing. $9.99 a month.
Dude, Caleb, wake up. Dude, we're live in 5 minutes. Let's go. Come on. What are you doing?
Dude, I'm so sorry. Xander had me in a cat food marketing meeting till like 2 a.m. last night.
Come on, man.
Do you have anything I can drink?
Dude, I got the perfect thing for you. Perico. It's a healthy energy drink alternative.
Perico, non-GMO, gluten-free, kosher, magnesium, B12, B6,
Yeah, it's good.
B5, biotin, and 0 sugar? Pericazo! Try Perico, made with natural ingredients, organic caffeine, and supports your metabolism. Try the new official energy drink of Kart Chaser.
You have to fight to pull ahead, to find your edge, to do whatever it takes to make you 1/10 of a second faster, smarter, more committed than the other guy, because you've got the kind of passion that can overcome the impossible. And we've got the most powerful performance race fuel available to help you do it. Sunoco Race Fuels. Take the lead.
So in motorsport, every detail matters, but we need to try to avoid using expensive and fragile sensors. So I'm gonna show you how we do it. So this is a comparison between the sensor, pink curve, and the accelerometer in blue. So we can read how hard the driver is applying the brake and how easy he's modulating his release in order to understand how the driver's braking. The sensor costs hundreds of dollars and the accelerometer is already in your dash, so you don't need to buy anything.
If you want to learn more about data analysis, you can sign up on my website right now. Enjoy the online course today.
Welcome back to Kart Chasers coverage of round 4 of the Skusa Winter Series. Of course, the final round of Skusa Winter Series. Ashton Woon is on the pole position. In X30 Junior, Ashton, kind of walk me through that because I know the conditions are totally different than they were yesterday, but it looks like you're fast.
Yeah, I knew I was fast this morning. I was purple this morning too, and I knew I was going to be fast. I was trying to figure out if I wanted to wait for people and try and get behind people or to just go by myself, but I wanted to get behind people and try and get a draft, but I did get behind Pettit, but I don't think I was close enough for a draft, and I just knew I was fast, so just went as fast as I could.
You're still in contention for this championship. What do you have to do later this afternoon to secure it?
I just have to get a good start and hopefully get a gap and then walk away from everybody, and if I don't, then I just need a race for the win.
There you go. Ashton Woon, he's racing for the win later this afternoon in X30 Junior.
First group about a minute in, coming to the line this time. It'll be the outlap all done for Pro X30s, for half of the Pro X30 drivers right now. James Overbeck, Joshua Sumbalis, Keegan Kaminsky, Sergey Karamseli, and Tiziano Rosso Orcel, your first couple of cars on the racetrack, just getting, again, that first time out of the pit lane. So outlap completed, first lap begins, and that's not the way you want to start it. Karamseli, big off-track moment there. Full dirt tracking through the ditch at turn number 2. And Sergey is going to try and clean those tires back off now, and it's right in front of everybody. Tiziano Rosso Orcel might have followed him off the cliff a little bit, it looked like. So 2 of the Nürburgring Academy GFCs doing some off-track driving at the beginning of qualifying and bringing all that debris onto the racetrack for the rest of the field to have to navigate through as they start their first lap. But that was kind of predictable once you saw the massive splash zone with how aggressive they were trying to cut over the puddle at turn number 1, that they just had no grip. It slid right off the down the embankment into the S's. We got a good look at what the puddle looks like here, how much pushed across the racetrack it is, because again, they can drive over it all they want, but it almost looks like there's 2. There's like a thinner patch of water right before the big one. The big one's moved over pretty good, about half the racetrack over, but a very thin 1 cart wide kind of lane right now on the far right-hand side of the front stretch. The only way you're not going to end up getting some spray and water on the tires.
And it's also got to be said, Sergey's lucky. It's not 2 weeks ago whenever we were in monsoon weather here at Speedsportz Racing Park, and it's again, it's kind of held off. But if that was 2 weeks ago, he would have been out of this session already and gone for a swim. As Aiden Ingrata looks on, and again, good in the qualifying session yesterday. Just the pre-final didn't go his way. The same can be said about Finnegan. Bailiff qualified almost on the final row with issues for him there as well. But him and fellow Burrell Art and Eric Doan pushing each other as Bailiff now going to get ahead. Finnegan was up inside of the top 15 in K, said they still had a little more to figure out in the X30 Pro classes. Sergey again hits that puddle you were talking about, all out of shape as they head into turn number 2, and the Skusa officials are there as well, trying to clear some of the water out as soon as the track clears off. But man, I mentioned it a little earlier as well, that puddle seemed a little bit wider than what it was. There's Matt Ackley, Skusa official, just kind of clearing off some of the water that has kind of expanded as the classes have gone on. So if a driver kind of hits that puddle spreads quite massively, and it'll cover the entire run into turn number 1, and it'll get you out of shape. You saw it there with Sergey. It was all sideways and able to hold on to it, but yeah, definitely not going to see any good lap times from here on out, as Perrin looking to go by on Doan. Not going to work, and that's just going to trip him up. Checkered flag in the air. Yeah, that's going to hurt him a lot. It's going to hurt Doan as well. Still able to improve. Kolar's up to 5th.
Look how far off the rest of the pack is from Keegan Kaminsky. Kaminsky, obviously, unlike his teammates, didn't end up going through the water nearly as harshly any of his times, and he's the only one that's actually gotten a clean session in. James Overbeck, best of the rest. In fact, Keegan's going to have another lap. So being the first one below the happy hour cut zone, he's going to get rewarded for it. And he'll get one more lap in all by himself. No tow, no meter stick to kind of use of any carts around him. And let's see if he can go a little bit better to set a higher bar even for the fast group to get to. 53.808 the time he had before this. Last lap to the line, 53.7, finds another 10th. And that could be the difference of a couple of positions for him. So good qualifying effort for Keegan Kaminsky. And there again, as you saw, as he crossed the line, the officials were right back to work with the brooms, trying to sweep the water off the side as much as they can. But again, that low spot on the front stretch is going to continue to puddle up the more that it sits still. Luckily, it won't be sitting still for long. The fast group from Pro X30 ready to roll. Aiden Ingrata, like you mentioned, was watching along, trying to take in any bit more of intel that he could yesterday in both rounds of the championship thus far have shown enough speed to mirror his third place result for the Winter Nationals here in March last year. But yesterday didn't even get a chance to really show what he had. Crashed out early in the pre-final. He had a phenomenal drive up the leaderboard in the main event for the back of the grid. In fact, he caught all the way up to the back of the top 5 before it was said and done. But the massive gap that was really just off raw pace between Hodgson, Ramos, and Vanchev from early on in the session was insurmountable for the Canadian. And now, as he leads them out and begins warming up his tires, looks like the field's in no rush to wait for him. They're going to go past him. Sean Butcher, the first of them, Hodgson, Lawrence, Massimino as well. All just trying to really scrub some heat into those tires. See how aggressive everybody is working the wheel right now on this outlap.
And again, one of the biggest stories yesterday was the double right section. The drivers not being allowed this weekend to go 4 tires over that red paint. Aiden Ingrata, we mentioned he was close a couple times. He had a 5-second penalty applied post-race. Likewise with the 305 and many more. There was about 7 to 8 penalties for cut track, some being 10 seconds, other being 5 seconds. So that's also something else that these drivers have to kind of keep an eye on here today. I'm not sure if it looked like maybe Paulie was one of the ones as well, but he wasn't. And speaking to him this morning, it was very beneficial, in good spirits, right? Paulie finally having a smile on his face this morning and just saying, right, that finally fighting a little bit of pace, right, in the cooler conditions. Blake Nash, the same can be said about him. 2 drivers that were protagonists at the opening rounds, and this weekend, talk about a weekend of forget, right?
Yeah,
horrific.
They just weren't a factor in the wet conditions, so they want to change the script at least on the overall weekend summary, taking advantage of the dry conditions that we've got today. And for Blake Nash, I know he would love to have round 1 back and equally probably round 2, right? 2 very close calls of finally getting the monkey off his back for a Pro X30 win. He's a winner in 125 Pro National competition with 2 wins in the OKN Stars category last season in the Stars Championship Series, but he has yet to win an X30 race. He has gotten oh so close. First, round 1, second for the majority of the race. Oliver Hodgson led laps a little bit on in the main, but ultimately he just waited a bit too long to make his move, and he couldn't get a mistake out of Hodgson. He couldn't rattle him enough in the middle of the race. He had a smart, play had it been a less experienced driver in front of him or someone he had a leg up on pace to just wait until the very end. But he waited and waited and waited and then just wasn't close enough. And then round 2, an issue at the beginning of the pre-final. Contact as he kind of got bullied around by the field, bent the front end geometry quite a bit. He had to start 16th, I believe. He charged his way to the lead pack before it was said and done. Led laps coming to the final stage of the race. Massimino went back by him, and then he had a hero attempt at turn 1 on the final lap of the race to go for it. It didn't pan out, and once again he ended up oh so close to victory. Now, today, dry conditions. This is attempt number 3 for Blake Nash in this kind of scenario to go and perform and get a race winner, a podium. We know he has the speed to do it. He has learned the hard way, unfortunately, but he has absolutely followed that trend that we've seen so many drivers do, and that is sometimes you have to lose one or lose a couple to gain one. Think about James Overbeck and his woes with the KA senior class until he finally broke through. And then once he got that first win, the floodgates open. I think the same could happen for Blake Nash, but this competition, it is so stout. Look at the Brits at the top right now. Gus Lawrence and Sean Butcher, they have come to play today. We talked about Gus last night. The pressure maybe building a little bit that, yesterday Vanchev had the better of him, and even Sean in his Pro X30 US debut was outrunning Gus just a little bit in the wet in the main before a flat tire took Butcher out. Gus Lawrence, he is making a statement right now in qualifying as the checkers fly for the back half of the group.
And I tell you what, the best are unfazed with all the noise. Gus Lawrence with 310s, like you mentioned, definitely unfazed at the moment in this qualifying session, chasing down Sean Butcher. A little bit of a reference here for the 2 Brits, or 3, I should say, with Oliver Hodgson right there in 3rd. And we'll see. Final time in the boot. Checkered flag is going to fly for everybody in this field. Butcher going to be the first to cross the line.
Sean Butcher, how much quicker can he go on the final lap to the line? He'll close it. Lawrence will go better. Hodgson up to 3rd, but Lawrence is still on top. He's staying there so far. Here's Bonilla, the last one to cross, and it'll hold. 10 points
an invaluable total of 10 points go the way of Gus Lawrence on the day where he needs it most, and he shrinks the deficit by just enough to keep himself in contention for the championship. Sean Butcher, hell of a debut weekend in progress. Sean Butcher joins him to make an all-RPG front row. Oliver Hodgson and Paulie Massimino on row number 2. Aiden Ingrata, Jesus Vasquez Jr. row 3. Yesterday's winner, Alexander Vanchev, Caleb, not in that first bunch.
Yeah, definitely not. The rookie, we talked about how good he was in the KA senior class, specifically in conditions where it was slick tires on wet, damp conditions on the racetrack today, where it's damp in turn number 1, just not able to find the same pace he had yesterday, only 9th for the rookie driver. You talk about drivers looking for that first win in Pro X30. Vanchev did not have to wait longer than 3 weekends to get it done, but he's going to have to wait a little bit to get himself up to the front and in the fight. Good performance out of Paulie, like you mentioned. Ingrata in the top 5. This is going to be, I think, maybe one of the best races that we're going to see all weekend long, with the top 5 being absolutely stacked.
Well, let's wait to, as we wait to talk to Gus Lawrence in the post-qualifying scaling here, give you a bit of a read of what now the point situation does look like, with the Brit moving his way up the board and getting that 10-point bonus. He entered today 50 points back from Oliver Hodgson. He needed a near-perfect day, only 60 points back if Hodgson were to fall onto his drop. That 10-point bonus now ties him with Alexander Vanchev, 40 points away from the points lead. They still are essentially going to need to win out from here. Either one of them will need to win both the pre-final and the final realistically to be able to dethrone Hodgson. If Lawrence, for example, ended up second in the pre-final but won the final, it would get really, really close and come down probably to the fast lap bonus and a potential tiebreaker. But Oliver Hodgson still very much so in the driver's seat, because while it is only a 40-point gap back, he has 260 points in the bank as his lowest score of the first 3 rounds. The most you can get is 320. The most remaining on today now, 310. Gus just took 10 off the board, moves himself up to P2 in the standings in a tie with his teammate, rookie Alexander Vanchev. Blake Nash, again, mathematically eliminated, but still well in shot of getting to 2nd or 3rd in the points to play spoiler. The same goes for Ramos, only 8 points back from Nash, and Paulie Massimino only 87 out of the overall lead, but more importantly, only 13 points back from Nash in 4th, and only about 47 back from the tie for 2nd. Our pole winner is through the scales, though. It's official, and he's standing with Dave.
Yep, just waiting for Gus Lawrence to get his go-kart up on the stand here, and we'll talk to him. He knew he had the speed yesterday when we spoke to him, and the speed would seem to still be there this morning. Kind of talk me through the pole lap.
Nice. It was nice. Like, I had a little bit of a distant carrot in the distance, so that helps a little bit. Obviously, we was going around the outside of the first corner, which is tricky because you want to try and take it as tight as possible, but if you do that, you're going to go through the water. So, no, I kind of thought it was good. Not a problem.
Yeah, it looks like the RPG carts came to play. Of course, Sean starting along the outside of you. How are you two going to play? Are you two going to play nice going into turn 1?
Nah, it's good. We're good friends. We're next to each other in the tent, so it's good to have a fellow Brit at the front.
There you go. It's going to be a very British front row as we head over to Sean Butcher. Sean, this is a little bit better today than it was yesterday. Kind of talk me through the qualifying lap out there today.
Yeah, I knew there was a risk of getting the extra lap if you were a little bit late, so I just wanted to get on with it. Probably lacked a little bit in terms of getting a tow, but yeah, I'm happy with P2.
And starting on the outside of the front row, I know there's been some talk about, which lane is better to go into, I guess, the first corner of the race. I mean, what do you think about starting on that outside?
To be honest, it's hard to say. I think just tackle it as it comes, and then, yeah, we'll see.
2 RPGs at the front of the field. Do you guys kind of coordinate and try to control this race?
Yeah, of course. Like, it would be ideal to just get away, me and him, and then maybe sort out towards the later stages of the race, but anything can happen.
There you go, Sean Butcher. He's a champion in Europe, and he's looking to get some good success here in the United States as well.
There you have it from your top 2 starters in Pro X30. What do you make of that, Caleb?
I mean, funny enough, spoke to Sean earlier on today, and I asked him, how you feeling first time here in the States? He was like, man, I'm having a great time. I just wish my luck was as good as the time that I'm having here, and finally got some there for Sean Butcher. Good to see him
out here. I know last year kind of talked about it, right? He's a guy that's been kind of working hard behind the scenes, didn't race at the Kart Masters. He was working under KR Sport. Now this year, back here this weekend and racing in the States. Good to see him taking part of another event here this weekend. And again, him and Gus in good spirits are going to lead this field. For Sean, he's going to have to keep elbows out on the outside, right? Trying to slot in the line wherever he can. But, you know, there's a lot of Americans there, right? Just right behind. And Buell Hodgson won. Massimino that finally got a good result there. But I'm excited to see what X30 brings us later on today. And good to see that Sean finally had a little bit of luck. We talk about luck here as well. Mario Barrios made his own luck yesterday in the main event, able to get the win. He's got to make his own luck here in the qualifying session as well. No draft for him. Miguel Mir is going to have that, as well as Roche Sr., who's right behind him. Sits third in line, currently third, and he's going to go up to second. Barrios, no draft, no problem. Only 4,000s behind. 4,000s clear of Roche for the provisional pole, and Boley all out on his lonesome. Looking for the pole position here. Once again, Boley, like you mentioned, the only other driver here this weekend that has mathematically clinched his respective championship.
Indeed. Brian Boley locked and loaded as the K100 Master Champion. So today is a fun day for him, and I'm sure he'd love to end off with a third checkered flag of 4 attempts over the Winter Series yesterday. Just second best to his teammate Mario Barrios, who was lights out once he got to the lead in the intermediate conditions that they were racing in. Esteban Roche Sr. had to fight from further back in the grid. He had a nice hard charge up the board to join the likes of his teammates in blue and pink. And then for Miguel Mir, Scott Falcone, the Orsolon boys, they were missing a bit. But we know that Scott's had the speed to fight at the front of the field in the dry, as has Trevor McAllister, who had a valiant effort from all the way at the back row of the grid to the front of the main event yesterday. But he's way down the leaderboard here in qualifying today. In fact, Barrios on top by a fair bit. A 10th to Mir, 3/10 to Falcone, and provisional champ Brian Boley cruising only up the board to P4. Adamor Caligaro, P5. Roche Sr., Carlos Calderon, Junaid Din, Paul Montopoli, Danny Howie, your top 10 in KA100 Master Qualifying. So Mario Barrios ends Saturday on top in the wet and the dry. Caleb, if I look at this, P11 for someone who has had top 3 pace, I feel like, across the board conditions-wise over this Winter Series.
And it'd be interesting to kind of spend the lunch break and talk to him as well, because yesterday, really good, consistently on the podium. I think on the podium every single round that we've been here. To see him 11th, that's, I mean, he's had to work his way through the field before. If I look back to a month and a half ago when we were here. So we'll see. Interesting for Trevor McAllister. He's been busy on the needles, busy on the carburation, but could be anything here as well. Nonetheless, so we're getting ready to go with the Mini Swifts for their first session, or official session, their qualifying session of the day. And you mentioned, right, earlier in the Perico pit box, Mason and Brody, one of the standouts in that class. Great performances. If anything, another driver with a good performance was Marcelo Flores, who's getting ready to go out in the second group. And from that second group, put himself fighting up at the front. As we look down here at the scale lines with Brian Boley, just missed out, but provisionally will be the champion. His teammate Mario Barrios, the Peruvian, on the pole.
Okay, and Brian Boley, you are the provisional champion. I believe a little less provisional. You are the champion. Kind of talk to me a little bit about that, because you were one of only 2 drivers yesterday to claim the championship.
Yeah, no, it feels good to have wrapped it up. Obviously got a whole round left today that I'm focused on. Want to make sure I finish out the weekend strong, and yeah, now I can play for keeps. So.
Yeah, kind of talk about that. You know, your expectation level for the end of the day, and kind of how your qualifying session went.
We struggled a little bit in qualifying, but yeah, the expectation today is a win, nothing less. So that's what I'll be going for.
There you go. Well, he's been doing a lot of that, so I think Brian Boley's going to take care of business later today.
There you have it from your P4 starter in K100 Master, but now we've at least talked to 2 of our 8 total champions that we'll crown later tonight with podium ceremonies. And that's because we don't know the remaining 6 just yet. The day will tell us, including the upcoming divisions. Mini Swift and Pro Shifter are all that are left to have their grid set. The only time sessions that remain in the 2026 Skusa Winter Series. 1 minute command being given there on the grid for the young guns. 2 groups for Mini Swift, 1 full group for Pro Shifter. But that's right, Perezzino, Chassis Jig, Mini Swift next.
From Formula One to NASCAR and IndyCar, all the pros start here. For more information, check us out online at mcckarting.com or call us and go racing today.
Hey guys, I'm Chris G. I'm Kart Chaser's driver fitness coach, and today I'm going to give you 3 tips on how to strengthen your shoulders for more endurance and better stability in the kart. Here we go. Okay, so exercise number 1 is the front rope pull-through cable raises. Okay, now this is the upright cable row. What you are doing here is you're picking a straight bar, as you see, and we're working the side areas of our shoulders, the medial. Exercise number 3, the dumbbell shrugs. As you guys can tell, I like to pause at the top before releasing. It's great for your strength, for that wheel stability. It's great for those shoulders and that upper back area. Chris G coaching, race-ready training that carries into real life. That's what we do here. See you on the next one.
First group onto the circuit for Perezzino Chassis Mini Swift, side by side and nearly 3 wide to kick things off. Tyler Blackwood trying to get away there in the 128 Paralyn, it looked like, and there was 2 drivers wanting to go past him initially, maybe just past each other and having a bit of a debate right in front of us. Connor Lipka there on the blue and yellow comp kart machine, the other one in the mix of it, Mace Ledzek and the Iron Rock Motorsports Tony kart. There's Liam Francisco, mixed him up. Little bro Tristan Francisco earlier, but Liam, the Miami Grands Micro Swift champ, moving up to Mini Swift. He's easy to spot in that black and yellow Ryan Perry Motorsport Nitro kart machine. And Marcelo Flores sets the first lap, his out lap, obviously the quickest, getting away from the pack. Yesterday, unfortunately, DQ'd on sportsmanlike conduct. We saw the contact between himself and Mason Brody after the line, so that puts him kind of on the back foot in the championship, trying to get into it. But the Mini Swift standings, they're pretty wide open, Caleb. There's a lot that could fluctuate there before the day is all said and done.
The championship definitely going to be a close one. All right, we talked about Mason Brody running up at the front. Hudson Howard was another one that was at the front. Jake Manalio, winner on that first weekend. Not sure, you're going to have to correct me if I'm wrong here, Xander. Did he win both rounds? I know he won round 1, and I think after post-race penalties, that second round did go the way of Jake Manalio. Nonetheless, though, Jake Manalio definitely going to be in the conversation after an okay day yesterday. Wasn't as good as maybe what he had, ending up on the top step of the podium. But again, we talk about the progression of these drivers, everybody just looking for a little more. And that being said, that second group going to be one to watch there as well, with multi-time Micro Swift champions moving up this year. We talked about the rookies, probably going to be the year of the rookies in the Mini Swift class, as they have been stealing the show. As we're watching one of them, Francisco, Ace Lasek there, here out of the state of Texas with Iron Rock Motorsports. But it's Marcelo Flores again by a 10th. Aiden Go, another driver we talked about, right? Having to work his way through the field yesterday in the pre-final after not the best of qualifying. Tyler Moraviec, we saw him run up at the front throughout the day, and for as well as some of the Sodis, and Panific, who was up there at one point. Pladera got himself with a race that kind of came their way. So we'll see. We'll see. First couple laps, and Aiden Go, a 59.460. It's a good way to kind of start off his day.
Great way to start things off after being absent from competition from round number 1. He doesn't have a big factor, but you're right. When you go back on the previous round results here, Jake Manalio certainly in the driver's seat coming into Sunday. He's got actually a pretty hefty advantage over the rest of the field with a great batch of wins at rounds 1 and 2. Now, of course, yesterday, 136 points. That low drop score kind of puts him in a vulnerable position compared to the likes of Brody Stoffel and Hudson Howard, who could potentially topple him. So that keeps a lot of people eligible for the championship with 320 points on the board. Pretty much everyone in the top 10, they've all had one up or down result on the season. So
You've got a lot of drivers in Mini Swift that could make a huge charge today, but it still is going to fall back on the shoulders of Manalio not having a good Sunday. But Brody Stoffel, Hudson Howard there on screen getting ready to go. Lucas Tarango, Dutch Westbrook, even with all the luck that just has not been there, is 5th in the drop standings coming into today because everyone else has had one downbeat round as well. Mason Brody, funny enough, as good as he had on that last round, the unfortunate way that the cards were played out at rounds 1 and 2, he's actually outside the top 10, believe it or not. Because round 1 didn't go great, round 2 did, and then of course a post-tech penalty took away those points. So Mason Brody, mathematically eliminated, takes all those points off the board at round 3, and your drivers that are actually in the fight for the title, I mean, they are all just spread apart by a matter of 10 or so points apiece. There's still, again, a big delta to get up to Manalio, but Manalio doesn't have a high drop score, so he still needs to have a really, really good Sunday. And as wide open as the dry races have been for Mini Swift, that makes it about anyone's guess who's going to walk out of Sunday with the Winter Series title. And that's why qualifying, as crucial as it is going to have some gamesmanship here in the fast group. And if they're not careful, Aiden Go is going to stay on top of that leaderboard this entire session.
Well, here we go. If this doesn't make mechanics, parents nervous, if the rain didn't get them nervous enough, I'm sure this will. Here today in their qualifying session, everybody just looking for a better position. Mason Brody, right, pulled off to the side, looking to reposition himself. As where does he find himself now? There's Liam Astalis in the 177. We didn't see much of him in the main event after contact with Samuel Chavarri. But there's Brody, almost all the way at the back of the pack. Hudson Howard, another one of the protagonists in the championships right there, as well as a couple more. Another one of the Bennicks, a couple of Sodis in that mix. And Mason Brody was up at the front, led this field out, and he's almost at the back of the pack. As we follow along with Yusuf Adi, Dutch Westbrook with the Super Nationals Championship helmets on. Not the usual Captain America lid that he's so used to using. But here we go. Again, more movers. Drivers repositioning. One of the Ursulans out of line for Salazar. Getting back in. Brody's going to rejoin in a couple more, but Westbrook now, he didn't really get held up all too much. He might be the first real lap time that we see out of this group. Still, they have to remember Aiden Go, 59.078. That's an okay lap time here for the minis. You'll probably see some 58s maybe out of this group if they're able to kind of get on with it here.
At least with the way that they've kind of sorted out in the first half of the pack, right now, I think they're all going to be tracking for some really good 3rd and 4th laps around. We're just early enough in the session with the leapfrogging dealt with all in a matter of that one backstretch moment. If there's more drivers that pull out of line here, well, that will kind of put a wrench into things. There you see at least only one dropping out of line, and there's Jake Manalio going the other direction, moving forward up the pack as he passes Nico Salazar and quickly, decisively, has the 140 of Cooper Lorenzo Lopez wanting to follow him. So no times yet, of course. That outlap burned a bit of valuable time that might limit this fast group to not having the first couple of drivers get the benefit of going out first and getting an extra lap in after the timer hits 0. This will be the first lap at speed. Yusuf Adi leading your pack. Jake Manalio again in command of the championship. He takes 10 points off the board here, and he sets himself up for a banner Sunday. It becomes a whole lot harder to close that 109-point gap. But right now only 8th there as he closes up to Audi. It's his teammates, Mason Brody and Brody Stoffel, that'll instantly go closer to Aiden Go's best time from the slow group. But that's boding well for the 198, that now a full lap in at speed, and the fact they burned some time early and are racing here, that maybe not everyone is going to go faster than him.
And again, you can still run a good lap time even with a pass there, so this shouldn't hurt Manalio all too much. Might hurt Yusuf Adi a little more because Adi followed through. I tell you, who is not going to benefit is Brody Stoffel and what looks to be Mason Brody as he drops a tire into the buckle. So this group just a little too close together. Stoffel right behind Kimo Ahmad and Mason Brody at the back of the pack. We'll see the lap time Jake Manalio is able to set. And we talked about him fighting for a championship here this week, and the same for Stoffel. They're going to cross the line. Manalio going to go to second. Not better than Aiden Go with the checkered flag flying. Aiden Go on the Paralyn. And I'm not sure, didn't catch if Manalio was able to get another lap or not. But it's 1,000th of a second, the gap in between Manalio and the 191 and Aiden Go in the 198, who's so close to the pool. And look at the gap. The top 6 within a 1/10 of a second of one another. The spread only 900ths here, Xander. And they're not. Aiden Go's on the pole.
That's it. The waiting around in the fast group burns them. Aiden Go from the slow group on the gas at a 59.078. By the slimmest of margins you can cut it. Gets the 10-point bonus taken away from all the championship contenders. And by 1,000th of a second is on pole. Mason Brody third behind Manalio, Howard, Stoffel, Ramirez, Lipka, Lopez, Flores, and Kimo Ahmad. One class left to qualify. Pro Shifter on tap for the day. And with the 10 points off the board here for Mini Swift, it becomes that much tougher to get 109 points knocked off the leaderboard to the current points leader, Jake Manalio, who again could easily find himself already in a clinchable spot with a good pre-final and getting to start on the outside of row number 1. But we've seen good starts and then them all of a sudden end up much worse for wear with how these races can play themselves out. Ultimately, again, folks, in Pro Shifter, things are not as wide open because of the string of consistency put on by not your front row, not your fastest drivers here from Happy Hour, but specifically Jay Irwin in the number 6 PSL Karting Bureau Lark. He is the one in the driver's seat here, folks, for this division's championship. It's still certainly possible for someone to be able to dethrone the New Zealander, but it's not going to be easy. Gavin Bailiff, the only one mathematically left eligible to do so. And to do it, he's going to need to be near perfect, if not perfect, today. Billy Musgrave and Mateus Morgado, the two drivers that were the ultimate combatants on Saturday afternoon. Another batch of testing and another kind of confidence boost, or shot across the bow, if you will, as we look towards the 2026 Superkarts USA Pro Tour. For our final time here racing at Speedsportz Racing Park, let's take a look here at the official kart class track map preview. 15 turns in total at this 7/10 of a mile near 8/10 of a mile circuit. Caleb, as the track map populates, why don't you take us through the run the drivers have from the moment they get across the finish line, right where we've been talking about that water port, into the S's at turns 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Well, you go to turn number 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can really pass in turn 1, turn 2. It's a very high-speed section. 3 and 4. That's where drivers, especially in the shifter class, going to downshift a little bit, try and get slowed down to a very long, and it seems long, but it's quick, right-hander all the way out of turn number 5 into turn number 6. One of the biggest passing zone, if not the biggest passing zone on the racetrack. There you'll see moves on the inside on that tight hairpin, and you call 6, 7, and 8. Call that switchback city, right? A lot of switchbacks being made there. You see a lot of great racing action through there. Then the double rights, 8 and 9. Cannot go too deep into the corner. You can't find yourself all 4 tires in that red paint where it's important. Turn 10 and 11, another passing zone there. The hairpin, we call it the buckle here, right in the middle of the racetrack. And then the run all the way down to turn 13, 14, and 15, the boot. You'll see a lot of crossover moves and a lot of drag races all the way to the finish line.
Engines have fired, as you can hear them. Pro Shifter, presented by PSL Karting, now on the circuit for their for the series' last qualifying session of 2026. The preseason almost done, and the racing for it will be all that will remain in the after the next 5 minutes. Hit 0, and the checkered comes out from Aaron Likens. 15 drivers on the board for Pro Shifter. We've been talking quite a bit about the major protagonists, but it could be a couple of spoilers on the first few rows. Cooper Becklin has been methodically closing the gap in times and pace over the last 2 race weekends on the NRG Race Concepts, or the Nelliton Race Concepts NRC machine, LN kart. He's in that blue and yellow entry. A number of the PSL Karting Bureau Lark drivers showed some promise in the warm-up session, most notably Ashton Henkel in the number 80. Rookie standout from Costa Rica, The Miami, Florida-based driver Diego Ardiles was a lightning rod at 2026's opening weekend. He was a little bit off the radar yesterday. He could easily get up into the mix now, back on the dry conditions that he was fast in January as well. But ultimately, again, we're expecting to see the fight for pole come down to one of 5 drivers on the racetrack. Justin White, quickest out of the grid, but again, they're still warming up the tires, and it looks like a lot of them are still taking a second lap to build some heat in the tires, and more importantly, the brakes. You got 3 brake systems on this machine, 2 brakes, 1 on each of the front tires, and then the brake for the rear axle like the rest of the single-speed go-kart. So you have a lot more variables at play. You have a lot more pieces that you're trying to all get to peak performance before you push and go at 110% in qualifying. Right now, it looks like Justin's teeing up for a fast lap on lap number 2. First couple of laps, I think, are still just building up pressures for a number of them. You can see now as Ardiles goes to the top, Musgrave, Morgado well down the board, waiting to try and find comfort before they go for full speed laps.
Yeah, round number 1, we talked about some of the rookies also, or some of the local drivers here putting on a good show. John Paul McCory was one of those in the 60. Put himself on row number 2. Inexperienced, though, sent him down the order as the races progress. We'll see if they can have another good result here. Noah Zars finds himself 3rd. Justin White 4th. Billy Musgrave only down in 5th. Ardiles, good lap out of him to start this one off, 52.663. And we'll see lap number 2 again. Temperatures continuing to rise. A big correction there out of White as he gets into the boot. Here we go, Musgrave to Bailiff to Morgado to White to Becklin and Ardiles, and then Zars up to 3rd. So you see how much it all changes. Justin White currently fastest, 50.923, and that's a massive swing in comparison to what we saw just a little bit earlier. Bailiff 2nd. And again, when you talk about championship, 10 points would be good for Gavin Bailiff if he's able to get a pole position here in this qualifying session, Xander.
It would be what he needs to keep himself well and alive in the title fight in Pro Shifter between himself and PSL Karting Barrel Arts' Jay Irwin, entering today separated by a mere 40 markers. But again, 10 points here brings it that much closer to a perfect day. He's going to take a little pressure off, I think, more than anything, his pre-final performance if he could start on the pole for that with the 10-point bonus up for grabs here. And the drivers aren't really going to know whether or not they've got the fastest lap of the race. Maybe a little bit in the Pro Shifter class when you have that much dominance like Musgrave did yesterday. But if Jay Irwin takes those 10 points away and off the board, all of a sudden the mountain gets that much higher to climb for Gavin Bailiff. As things stand right now, he would need to be perfect throughout the rest of the day. With the fast lap, he would only tie Irwin, but by having 2 main event wins to Irwin's 1, it would go the way of Bailiff. But that's if he doesn't dethrone him right here. Checkers out, final lap underway. He's pushing, Musgrave's pushing. They need a couple of tenths to get to the number 6, to the line for the number 1 plate. Let's see what Billy has.
And there goes Billy to the top of 49.958. Irwin is a little further back. He's going to cross the line here momentarily. Here comes Irwin. Zars first. Irwin across the line. Not enough. Billy Musgrave is on the pole position. In shifter of 49.958. 2 tenths clear of the field. The number 1 on the pole and picking up right where he left off yesterday. Great speed. Pole on Saturday, pole on Sunday for Billy Musgrave.
There you go, folks. Billy Musgrave is, unfortunately, just by a mere matter of a couple of points, out of the championship conversation, but he's going to try and win out regardless here on the finale weekend. 2 tenths clear on the Kiwi kid. Jay Irwin in 2nd, Gavin Bailiff 3rd. Justin White will once again start the day in 4th. But Mateus Morgado, probably the biggest surprise out of qualifying. The Velocity Sodi looked good in the warm-up session. 4 tenths off down in 5th. In fact, he was only 5 thousandths up on Ashton Henkel. A number of PSL Barrel Arts picking up speed in qualifying. Henkel, Ardiles, Leapfrog, and Cooper Becklin, Melchiori, and Charles Gauthier. Your top 10, it all smiles still out of the All-American badass Billy Musgrave. 2 tenths up on the field in qualifying, with Jay Irwin and Gavin Bailiff right there next in line, 2nd and 3rd.
And Billy Musgrave had such an incredible drive yesterday and was super, super entertaining. Of course, championship a little bit out of reach at this point. Are you still driving angry?
Absolutely. I'm still fired up, man. I got something to prove today, and I'm going to make sure I show it.
You stuck 2/10 on the whole field.
Sounds good. That's hard to do going from the front. Man, that turn one with a puddle in it is pretty treacherous. So on that last lap, I really just took it easy through there, made sure I got the car straight, and then just hammer down.
Yeah, kind of talk about those track conditions, because that's been the story all weekend, the changing track conditions. How are they now?
Yeah, I mean, the most of the track is really good. If you go a little bit too wide, center off on some of the apexes, you'll grab some water in between the curbs and the puddles. It's really just that turn one, which is usually for us, you grab 6 and it's flat over the curb. Right now, we're having to go probably about 10, 12 feet offline. It's like you're trying to just skim a little bit of water to get the angle right, but then if you go too hard, the car slides, so it's fun.
So much of the talk yesterday, too, was tire pressures. How important are those going to be to get right as the track continues to change?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think the tire window, I mean, now that with the cloud cover, we'll see if the sun comes out later today. But I think the window on the tire pressure, got about half a pound, maybe 3/4 of a pound to play with. And from there, it's like, a lot of the focus, on Friday was about just raw pace, but we got to a point where the car was good no matter kind of where we went, and then the focus kind of switched to, okay, one lap's one lap, but can we do 3, 5, 10, 20? So yeah, where we have the car right now, I think I can drive it hard. I can run that pace and not chew up the rear tires.
The All-American badass is driving angry, and that should be a warning shot for the rest of the field.
Well, folks, qualifying done and dusted for the 2026 Superkarts USA Winter Series. If you've been following our free coverage this morning, both of the Perico pit box during warm-up and qualifying now, we'll have more of it with race day and championship podiums and the Perico post-race coverage this afternoon. But if you're not a KC Premium member, this is where we have to unfortunately say goodbye. You can get all the action live here by hitting the join button on YouTube, $9.99 a month on non-iOS devices. Sign up there first. We promise you it's worth it, and save a couple bucks there versus picking it on your iPhone or iPad. But either way, that's where we'll be now. Let's move to KC Premium members for pre-finals and main events. If not, you'll see the free coverage on replay later next week. For Caleb Vieska, David Land, myself, Zeta Clements, on the other side of this break, we're going racing for the final day of action in the Winter Series from Speedsportz.
IAMI USA West is the official